Welcome back to my YouTube channel. In today's recap, we will be looking at an anime titled Shichisei no Subaru. In this anime, those who accept the revelation of Babel must face several wars and difficulties. By grabbing the hand of their special partner, these handshakers travel to the realm of Ziggurat, another dimension where time does not exist. Each pair of handshakers must compete for the right to meet with the supreme deity, who will reward them by giving them one wish. Tazuna Takatsuki, a high school student who enjoys mending things, is one of these handshakers. After getting a request for repairs from Professor Makihara of a nearby institution, Tazuna comes across Koyori Akutagawa, a bedridden girl who reminds him of his deceased sister Musubu. Tazuna grabs Koyori's hand, remembering her dying wish to never let go of her hand, and activates his handshaker power. However, Koyori's life is inextricably linked to her status as a handshaker, which means that if Tazuna ever lets go of her hand, she will die. Meeting the supreme deity, their only option for saving her, the team must find a method to combine their distinct skills, defeat the opposing handshakers, and fulfill their dream. I'm sure that at this point, you will want to know how everything plays out, right? Then, sit back, relax, and enjoy. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. Takatsuki Tazuna is a regular high school student terrified of the life he got after being forced into the supernatural. He misses his previous life as a normal teenager where all he had to do was sit at his corner in class while fixing and making machines. Now, he is surrounded by a sea of flames and a rain of rubble, trying to figure out what a handshaker is. Just before the crazy event took place, he used to attend a high school in the city. One day, Lily, the president of the student union in his school, met him to get her MP3 player. Upon meeting Tazuna, she gets her MP3 player and tries it out to see if it was fixed properly. When Lily confirms that the device is all fixed, she appreciates Tazuna for his efforts. In doing so, she gets quite close to Tazuna, which makes him feel quite uncomfortable. He politely calls Lily out on the closure, and she reverts to her normal posture. A student passes by Tazuna, promising to offer him more jobs because of how good he is with machines. At some point, Tazuna freaks out when he looks at his wristwatch because of how fast time has gone. Lily, who studies his facial expressions, is quick to realize that he has not eaten lunch. Another thing is that he did not bring his lunchbox to school. Tazuna is hungry, and he reveals that he has been working since the first period of school. Lily, upon hearing this, looks shocked, but then she encourages Tazuna, saying that something good will happen. After that, she takes out a card and drops it on Tazuna's desk to see a prediction of his future. The prediction after dropping the card is that a sudden, unexpected accident will occur in Tazuna's life. Tazuna exhales after seeing this, but he does not freak out. On the other hand, Lily offers to buy him lunch after school, but he declines because he has another job to do for a professor at the university. In the end, Lily feels bad for Tazuna because he has little or no spare time. Later that afternoon, Tazuna helps a guy named Hayate to repair his car. He does not take long to do it because of how good he is. Just a little tunning here and there, and the car was all right. Hayate thanks him for the help and promises to pay him for his services later, but Tazuna lets him off on the cash. Instantly, Tazuna freaks out because he is almost out of time to see the professor at the university. Because of that, he rides his bike as quickly as possible and arrives at Makihara Labs at the university. He heads into the lab looking for Professor Makihara but finds no one there. Instead, he sees a chunk load of monitors taking readings of something. At the end of the room is an electronic door that leads to the other side. Out of curiosity, Tazuna peeps at the translucent window and finds out that the other side of the room is set up like a hospital room. A girl named Koyori lies unconscious on the hospital bed connected to some machines that are monitoring her vitals. The sight of the girl makes Tazuna recall a time when his sister, Musubu, was fighting for her life. At that time, he held her hand, wishing that she survived her illness. His parents, who were present at the time, suffered a great loss when Musubu finally kicked the bucket. In the present, the electronic door unlocks itself, and Tazuna walks past it to the other side of the room. When he gets closer to Koyori, he recalls a time in the past when his sister told him not to let go of her hand. He then snaps out of his thoughts when he sees that Koyori is awake in real time. When Koyori makes contact with him, reality peels, and he begins to receive the revelation of Babel. The deity Babel speaks directly to Tazuna's mind while he makes contact with Koyori. Since this is his first experience with a deity, he freaks out, but what leaves him clueless is when Babel calls him a handshaker. Afterward, Tazan regains consciousness, and the professor enters the room. Professor Makihara looks excited because Koyori now has a partner. He welcomes Tazuna as a handshaker, but the only thing is that Tazuna cannot quite comprehend what the said term means. Out of curiosity, Tazuna questions Makihara about what a handshaker is, and he replies by saying that he will know if he goes to the ziggurat. When Tazuna tries to let go of Koyori's hand, Makihara obstructs him, saying that if he does, she will die. Tazuna, upon hearing this, recalls a time in the past when he was holding his sister's hand in the hospital. He snaps out of his thoughts when he sees that Makihara has vanished. Suddenly, multiple enchanted chains proceed out of all corners of the walls trying to kill Koyori and Tazuna. Because their lives are in danger, Tazuna carries Koyori on his back and runs out of the room looking for the safest place possible. While running, the enchanted chains follow him despite the fact that he is not running in a straight line. Another thing is that Tazuna notices that his body feels so light and he can move fast. At some point, he falls to the ground with Koyori when he reaches the university's courtyard. The good thing is that he still maintains contact with Koyori to keep her alive, while the bad thing is that his attacker is on the roof of the university's main building. Moving on, Tazuna observes the environment and notices that no one is around. Despite that, his major concern is why the attacker, Break, intends to kill him. Break stands beside his partner, Bind hell-bent on eliminating Tazuna. From the way Tazuna speaks, Break finds out that he is new to the supernatural. Since he sees Tazuna as easy prey, he compels Bind to unleash more enchanted chains on him and Koyori. Afterward, Tazuna finds himself running for his life with Koyori on his back. He pauses at a corner with Koyori to catch his breath, but Break and Bind reach his position within seconds. Break, upon seeing him, smiles and pushes Bin to the ground, forcing her to unleash more enchanted chains at Tazuna. Koyori, who is present at the time, tries to let go of Tazuna's hand, but he grabs onto her. Within seconds, clock-like gears appear above Tazuna and revolve around him. Tazuna notices that the gears can sense his feelings and then he tries to seize control of it. On the other hand, Break smiles because Tazuna has summoned his Nimrod. Tazuna uses his Nimrod to block the enchanted chains that Bin summons at him. At some point, Tazuna gets fed up with the consistent attacks against him. He alters the shape of his Nimrod and converts it to a geared sword, hoping to fight with it. He uses the sword to block all the chains coming at him while charging at Break. In the end, he cuts through Break's concentrated attacks, leaving Blind screaming in fear. She screams because she knows that her partner has lost already. In the present, Tazuna wonders why he has to fight. He hates the fact that he has to fight even as the professor is telling him to. At the lab, Makihara offers Tazuna some cakes so that he can replenish the energy he lost. Makihara drops info regarding the handshakers that Tazuna defeated a while ago. According to him, they have been sent to the hospital to receive treatment. Another thing is that they will be fine because injuries sustained in the ziggurat do not last long. Tazuna, upon hearing this, confirms that ziggurat is the world where there is no one. He hates the fact that he has to fight and meet the deity, babble even after Makihara explains some details to him. Makihara is pretty hyped about the theory of handshakers because his entire research has been about the concept. He intends to find out about the ziggurat, Nimrods, the revelation of Babel, and be the one to explain all concepts. According to him, when Tazuna holds hands with Koyori, he gains power, a weapon called Nimrod, and also superhuman abilities. He will also fight in a parallel world called the Ziggurat, where other handshakers like him battle to the death. Other handshakers in existence will battle to the death, and the winner gets to see the supreme deity and have their wish granted. Although Tazuna reveals that he does not want to fight, Makihara tells him that he will have to, because other handshakers will come after him. Out of curiosity, Tazuna questions Makihara if the handshakers he had previously fought lost their power. Makihara then replies saying that the fatal wounds obtained in the ziggurat end one's life as a handshaker. When a handshaker is defeated, the person loses his Nimrod and can no longer have access to the ziggurat. Another thing Makihara talks about is holding hands with one's partner as a handshaker. He describes it as a charging process, which allows a handshaker to create their Nimrod and maintain their presence in the ziggurat. He speaks about Koyori saying that she is special in the sense that if Koyori lets go of her hand, she will die. She has to stay connected to Tazuna so that she does not lose power to maintain her existence in reality. Makihara does not know why Koyori is in such a condition, and he hopes to find out at some point. He then suggests that Tazuna and Koyori love together so that they can maintain contact with their hands. Tazuna, upon hearing this, expresses shock because he still lives with his parents. Makihara, on the other hand, offers to smoothen things with Tazuna's parents so that Koyori can live with them. Later that evening at the Takatsuki residence, Tazuna's parents throw a welcome party for Koyori and Tazuna. There, Tazuna is left wondering how it was easy for Makihara to convince his parents to let Koyori live with them. For some reason, his parents act too nicely toward Koyori, and it freaks him out. In the end, Makihara leaves the house asking Tazuna's parents to please take care of Koyori. Moments after Makihara leaves, Koyori, Tazuna, and his parents gather at the dinner table to eat. Since Koyori does not know how to eat Japanese food, Tazuna shows her the way, and she learns quickly. After dinner, Tazuna heeds to the bathroom to show her for the night. The only issue there is that he needs to be in the bathroom with Koyori to maintain contact with her. In the end, he finds his way around it and fulfills his objective. The following day, Tazuna introduces Koyori as the new student in his class. Because he maintains contact with Koyori, some of his classmates assume that he is trying to show her off. The fact that Koyori is pretty makes lots of guys want to get close to her and speak to her. At some point, Tazuna cannot handle the numbers, and as such, he runs away from the guys with Koyori. After they cover a good distance from the classroom, they stop to catch their breaths. While resting, Lily heads over to meet Tazuna. She is quite aware of what went down in class and intends to know how Tazuna is doing. She introduces herself to Koyori, and then notices that Koyori does not speak. Because of that, she assumes that Koyori does not speak lots of Japanese yet. She then hands over a device to Tazuna so that he can help her and repair it. Tazuna collects the device, but tells her that he will take some time to repair his device since he is using one hand. Before Lily leaves, she takes out her card to predict Tazuna's future again. This time, the meaning of the card is that Koyori and Tazuna are lovers. Later that day, Hayate and his boss, Chizuru, meet up with a potential client. Because Chizuru looks significantly younger than her age, the client assumes that she is a student and that Hayate is the boss. This alone makes her feel bad because she often gets addressed as a minor most times. Even at that, she shows respect to the clients and thanks them for hearing her out. After 2 weeks, Tazuna sits at the lab with Koyori to carry out routine checks. There, Makihara reveals that Koyori can eat normal food, adding that Tazuna can let go of her hand for about 15 minutes. After Tazuna gets this info, he exhales because there is nothing wrong with Koyori. That afternoon, Chizuru leads a presentation to attract an investor to her company. She drops an astonishing presentation that most investors like. One of the investors compliments her for her efforts and then wishes to have her as an employee. To prevent a scene, Chizuru plays along and allows the investors to assume that Hayate is the boss. Afterward, while she eats lunch with Hayate, she mentions that she was called the employee instead of the boss. Hayate is left apologizing, but Chizuru comes up with the idea of sending an email to the investors to clear the air on the matter. Chizuru finishes her food quickly, and Hayate reacts because he has not eaten half of his food yet. He ends up apologizing to Chizuru for being slow and then tries to get a food residue off her cheeks. While at it, Chizuru gets the food particle herself and then thanks Hayate for trying. After eating lunch, checks out a new kitchen and concludes that she can expand her business. While checking out the kitchen, she sees Tazuna fixing some equipment at the back of the counter. Tazuna stands with Koyori holding her hand as usual. When he is done, the chef in charge appreciates him because he fixed the equipment and it works. While leaving the restaurant, he bumps into Hayate and Chizuru, who recall him from the past. On the way out of the restaurant, Hayate enters into a conversation with Tazuna about his car and bicycle. At some point, he introduces himself properly to Tazuna and reveals that he works for Senteotl Inc., which is Hayate's company. On the other hand, Tazuna introduces himself to Hayate and also does the same for Koyori. In turn, Chizuru speaks about her company, which is a restaurant that runs cocktail corn. After that, she quickly reveals that she is not an intern or a middle school student so that Tazuna will not mistake her for a child. However, the plan fails because Tazuna thinks that she is in elementary school. Hayate steps in at this point and reveals that Chizuru is his boss, and also an adult. Tazuna, upon hearing this, apologizes to Chizuru for disrespecting her. Chizuru forgives him and then proceeds to explain the details of her work. She takes note of the fact that Tazuna has been holding hands with Koyori the whole time and concludes that they are close. Because of that, she invites them over to her restaurant for a date. Tazuna quickly tries to deny the fact that he is not that close to Koyori, but while doing so, he recalls that the professor told him that Koyori can now eat. He then snaps out of his thoughts and asks Koyori if she would like to go to the restaurant, and she nods in agreement. Later that afternoon, Tazuna prepares to leave his house with Koyori. On the way, he informs his mom that he is going out, and she smiles at him. In a short time, they arrive at Chizuru's restaurant, and she welcomes them in. Chizuru takes note of the fact that Koyori is cute, and she compliments her for her appearance. When Tazuna and Koyori take their seats, Chizuru tells them that they can order whatever they want because Hayate is paying. As she leaves to attend to other customers, Tazuna displays the menu in front of Koyori so she can choose the food she would like to order. After she makes the choice, Tazuna pushes a button to order their food. Koyori delivers both dishes in minutes and says a few words about each dish. After she leaves, Koyori tastes her food and finds out that it is sweet. She enjoys the meal as well as Tazuna, who eats happily. In a short while, they both finish their food, but Hayate offers to give them more. In the evening, Tazuna appreciates Hayate and Chizuru for offering them food. Surprisingly, Chizuru joins hands with Hayate, and they both enter the ziggurat with Tazuna and Koyori. At this point, Tazuna finds out that they are handshakers, but it turns out that Chizuru knew he was a handshaker all along. Since time passes differently in the ziggurat, Chizuru feels less concerned about her job. Rather, she intends to fight against Tazuna, even though he does not want to. Her reason for fighting stems from the fact that most people treat her as a minor. While in the ziggurat, Tazuna runs away with Koyori to avoid getting killed. Meanwhile, Chizuru catches up to him in seconds and throws her Nimrod at him. Tazuna erects his Nimrod to block Chizuru's attack, but it breaks the moment Chizuru's weapon comes in contact with it. Regardless of that, Tazuna erects his Nimrod and sends it to Chizuru to keep her busy so he can run away with Koyori. His plan works for some time but fails when Hayate joins Chizuru to attack him. Both partners have their Nimrods, giving them the upper hand in battle. In the quest to stay alive, Tazuna converts his Nimrod into a sword and uses it to block all attacks launched at him. Although he manages to keep up in battle, it becomes harder when Chizuru splits herself and her partner into shadow clones. Even at that, Tazuna attacks the clones with the intent of winning the battle against the enemy. Because he is outnumbered, he takes damage from one of Chizuru's clones and flees the scene with Koyori to regroup. While fleeing, some enemy clones catch up to him, and he turns around to fight them. The fact that he fights against multiple clones at a time allows Chizuru to catch up to him. From a distance, she throws her Nimrod at Tazuna, hoping to end their battle, but fails to deal damage to him. Tazuna alters the shape of his Nimrod, making each gear revolve around him to serve as a shield against any attack on him. When Tazuna notices that Chizuru and Hayate are close to him, he uses his Nimrod to form a smokescreen to distract his enemies. After that, he fights off some other clones and speeds off with Koyori right behind him. While fleeing, Tazuna notices that his body feels different compared to the last time he fought. It feels as if his power level as a handshaker has gone up because of how easy it is for him to wield the sword and use his abilities. He easily takes out a bunch of enemy clones, although he carries Koyori with him. At some point, Tazuna makes it to the top of a roof, and his opponents arrive there seconds after him. Chizuru, who is present at the time, realizes that Tazuna means business, because he takes out his sword ready to fight. Because of that, she forms new clones and sends them to Tazuna. One reason why she did so was because she wanted Tazuna to have difficulties in finding out the original clone. To her surprise, Tazuna easily wipes out all the clones in a single strike, leaving Chizuru exposed. Hayate steps in at this point to prevent Chizuru from taking damage. He lures Tazuna from his location so that they can fight and settle their scores like men. In the end, when the smoke clears out, Chizuru finds out that her partner, Hayate, lost to Tazuna. Because they lost their Nimrods and got kicked out of the ziggurat. In the real world, Hayate and Chizuru apologize to Tazuna for fighting against him. One reason they are sorry is that Koyori would have died if Tazuna failed to defeat them. Chizuru apologizes especially to Koyori because she is the one most vulnerable to death if she loses. As a sign of acceptance, Koyori walks up to her and pats her on the head, making her feel shy. On the other hand, Professor Makihara offers Hayate some cakes and he likes them. Makihara seems pleased with the fact that Hayate and Chizuru did not end up as enemies in real life since they lost to Tazuna. Chizuru accepts defeat, saying that it was a fair fight. She praises Tazuna for defeating her while protecting Koyori at the same time. At some point, Chizuru speaks to Tazuna about holding hands with Koyori. According to her, if Tazuna keeps holding hands with Koyori in public, it will be obvious that they are handshakers. Another thing is that when handshakers hold hands, they exchange memories and emotions. However, this is not the case for Koyori because she has been asleep for most of her life. Tazuna realizes this and then understands why he does not feel anything from Koyori when he holds hands with her. Chizuru also adds that it is possible to hide something from one's partner if the person focuses on what he wants to hide. Hayate, upon hearing this, realizes that his partner may be hiding something from him. However, when he brings it up, Chizuru ignores him and changes the topic. This time, she speaks about the ziggurat and Makihara joins. According to Makihara's research data, the ziggurat is triggered when a pair of handshakes are about a kilometer away from themselves. Chizuru adds that a handshaker can be challenged to battle even if the person is not holding hands with his partner. The condition for this is that the challenger must know the identity of the challenged. Makihara also drops info saying that if Tazuna gets over a kilometer away from his enemy, he will be kicked out of the ziggurat. With this knowledge, Tazuna realizes that it is a bad idea for him to go out in public holding hands with Koyori. Chizuru advises him to keep his name confidential so that he does not draw his battles from the ziggurat into the real world. She seems pretty interested in Tazuna's case since he is new to the world of the supernatural. She offers Hayate and herself up to act as guardians to Tazuna, so he does not lose any battle as a handshaker. In turn, while Tazuan looks shocked, he bows down and appreciates Chizuru and Hayate for their offer. Koyori does the same too, even though she does not speak yet. In the end, Chizuru comes up with a team name for Tazuna and Koyori, which is Single Gear. Tazuna accepts the name and thanks Chizuru for coming up with it. Later that evening, Hayate drives Chizuru heading back to town. While on the way, Chizuru tears up because she lost to Tazuna. She seems frustrated because her chance of getting her wish granted is gone. At some point, Hayate tears up too because he is unsatisfied with his defeat. Because he is sober, he loses control of the steering, leaving Chirur yelling for her life. The good thing is that Hayate was able to get to their destination without having an accident. At their destination, Chizuru assures Hayate that they are still a team in the real world, regardless of the fact that they are no more handshakers. She also assures him that they can do anything if they both work together. Finally, she drags Hayate to an expensive restaurant to have a drink, keeping in mind that she is not paying. At night, Tazuna lies unconscious in his bedroom, holding Koyori's hand as he sleeps. For some reason, Koyori, who is awake at the time, gets on Tazuna and checks through the bandages on his body. At some point, she exhales and tries to let go of Tazuna's hand. After some days, Koyori plays cards with Lily and wins her with ease despite the fact that she just learned the game. Lily, being impressed with her performance, asks her to be her friend and agrees. Meanwhile, Tazuna wanders around the streets of the city looking for where Koyori might be. Hours before Koyori went missing, she was with Tazuna at a restaurant. At that time, Chizuru hosted them at a fancy restaurant that she intended to use as a showroom for a next-generation store. When Tazuna places an order for a meal, he looks fascinated because of how the food is delivered. His obsession with mechanics makes him try to analyze how the food was delivered without losing form or its proper arrangement. When he gets engulfed in his thoughts, Koyori spanks him back to reality so he can focus on his meal. Even at that, Tazuna asks Hayate if he can see the food delivery system, but he declines, saying that it is not possible. While Tazuna converses with Hayate, Koyori calls Chizuru's attention and succeeds. She communicates to Chizuru in her way, expressing her wish to cook for Tazuna. After Chizuru realizes what Koyori means, she displays a phone showing a bunch of recipes that will be a good guide for cooking. She looks happy to help Koyori because they both have an interest in cooking. After Tazuna is done in the restaurant, he heads out into the city, strolling with Koyori. As usual, he maintains contact with her but is still carried away by how the previous restaurant works. However, he snaps back into reality when he finds out that Koyori is no longer walking with him. The fact that she's missing makes him regret why he did not give her a phone the first time they went out. On the other hand, Koyori walks all by herself and stops when she realizes that she is no longer holding Tazuna's hand. For this reason, she weeps and sits by herself in front of a commercial store. While sitting there, Lily and her brother Masaru find her and call her attention. Meanwhile, Tazuna runs around the city looking for Koyori. He speaks with Makihara over the phone concerning Koyori's disappearance, and they both seem worried. One troubling factor is that Koyori has only 2 hours to live without making contact with Tazuna. Still, on the call with Makihara, Tazuna sees someone who looks like Koyori and chases after her. While at it, he stops at a spot and finds out that he has lost the girl. Seconds later, a man named Nagaoka calls his attention, asking if he is looking for something. They converse for a few seconds, but Tazuna looks shocked when he finds out that Nagaoka knows Makihara. Elsewhere, a card tournament begins at a store in the city, where teenagers gather to compete against themselves. Lily, who is present at the time, informs Koyori that she is having an issue getting across to Tazuna. After that, Lily smiles in awe because her brother, Masaru, is in the finals. A few meters from her is Masaru sitting in the middle of the room, gathered by knocked-out competitors. His opponent sits on hot seat because he needs to win to become the champion of the card game. Even at that, Masaru looks confident that he can win, and this puts a lot of pressure on his opponent. Finally, he makes a surprise move that ends the game instantly, making him the champion of the game. Because of that, Lily cheers loudly, but but Masaru looks embarrassed because he does not like the way his sister behaves in public. While outside, Koyori expresses interest in Masaru's cards, and he agrees to teach her. Back at Tazuna's position, Nagaoka reveals that Makihara was a handshaker in the past. This revelation shocks Tazuna, and he wonders who Nagaoka is. What makes matters worse is when Nagaoka questions him about why he fights. Nagaoka then states that Tazuna is fighting to keep Koyori alive. Tazuna, upon hearing this, looks stunned, but what shocks him the most is when Nagaoka states that Koyori reminds him of his late sister, Musubu. Elsewhere, Koyori plays cards with Masaru. At some point, Masaru lands a finishing move, but Koyori counters, shocking Masaru in the process. Although she just learned the game, Lily is impressed with her playing technique. Lily, on the other hand, leaves the room to try and reach out to Tazuna for Koyori's sake. In her absence, Koyori begins another round of the card game with Masaru. Elsewhere, Tazuna receives a call from Lily, where he finds out about Koyori's whereabouts. After he ends the call, he leaves Nagaoka and heads off to go find Koyori. At Masaru's location, Lily realizes that she has no money when she opens her purse to pay for the telephone bill. To avoid embarrassment, Masaru, her little brother, offers to pay the bill, but she feels bad that she cannot live up to the expectations of a big sister. After Masaru settles the payment, Lily turns around and thanks him for doing so. Outside the building, Lily says a bunch of creepy stuff to Koyori about her brother. It appears that she has a thing for him but feels uncomfortable because her feelings are quite weird. From a distance, Koyori hears her name and turns around to see that it is Tazuna who is calling her. Tazuna speeds over to her and holds her hands, apologizing for leaving her behind. After that, he turns around and thanks Lily for reaching out to him concerning Koyori. When Masaru gets out of the building, he pays respect to Tazuna and holds hands with his sister. The moment he makes contact with his sister's hand, reality peels, and they all enter into the ziggurat. It is at this point that Lily finds out that Tazuna is a handshaker. Her brother immediately steps in front of her to protect her against any attack from Tazuna. Lily wishes not to fight, and the same thing goes for Tazuna. However, Masaru thinks otherwise when Tazuna tries and fails to exit the ziggurat. He triggers his Nimrods, and his sister does the same, ready to fight against their opponents. Tazuna deploys his Nimrod and converts it into a shield to block any surprise attack from his opponents. On the other hand, Masaru and Lily activate their Nimrods and disappear to another point in the ziggurat. At first, Tazuna gets the impression that they let him go, but he realizes that he is in danger when Masaru attacks him. Masaru's Nimrods are like cards with different properties and features. He uses them to emit fire blasts at Tazuna, as well as other things that would deal a good amount of damage. Even at that, Tazuna speeds off with the intent of telling his opponents that he does not want to fight. While on the way, Masaru sends a bunch of cards at him, which causes some crazy explosions in the ziggurat. The good thing is that Tazuna can survive the blast, but the bad thing is that more are coming. Although Lily is fighting against her classmate, she intends to go all out on him to fulfill her wishes. She deploys some cards, and her brother uses them to cause more explosions in the ziggurat. Sometime in the past, when Lily was much younger, she had the best score in a math exam. Her mother was pleased with the result, but her father was all about working hard and improving. Even when she became student council president, her father still gave the same cold remark, but her mother was reasonable. One day, her father heads out of the house after warning her to not get cocky, regardless of the fact that she had an A in her exams. After he leaves, Masaru heads back from school, and his mother yells at him for his bad behavior. He is quite the opposite of Lily, because he cares less about good grades and school. Masaru's nonchalant attitude makes his mother cry, and as such, Lily volunteers to go talk to him. When she gets to his room, she knocks, and he lets her in. There, Masaru spits out bluntly that he does not care about his parents. Lily, upon hearing this, tells him not to say bad things about their parents. She then struggles to say something else, and Masaru tries to get it out of her. She feels quite shy when she tells Masaru not to make her worry too much about him. When she tries to leave the room, she trips and falls, feeling embarrassed in the process. Even at that, she falls to the ground, saying that she will feel better if Masaru lets her hold him the way she used to. Masaru agrees to it, but feels somewhat uncomfortable when Lily hugs him. In the end, Lily reveals that she loves him under the guise that he is nice. As time went on, they fought against other handshakers who opposed them. In the present, they both join hands to rain destruction in the ziggurat, hoping to defeat Tazuna and Koyori. Each one of them is quite serious about protecting the other, regardless of the fact that Lily is the older one. Meanwhile, Tazuna looks very much alive, but the only thing is that he breathes heavily due to excessive running. The same thing goes for Koyori, who manages to catch her breath. Tazuna speeds off with her immediately, trying to get close to his opponents via a blind spot. Unluckily for him, Masaru finds him and uses his Nimrod to restrain him. He then lands a fatal strike at Tazuna and Koyori, sending them flying away to a possible death. Lily hugs Masaru, signifying that they have won the battle. When she notices that the ziggurat has not faded away, the thought that her opponents are still alive flashes in her mind. Meanwhile, Koyori drags Tazuna amid the flames, wishing that he would recover quickly. When Tazuna regains himself, he tells Koyori to run for her life, but she resists. Because of that, Tazuna reignites his fighting spirit with the intent of protecting Koyori. When he holds hands with Koyori, their location changes, but Koyori leads the way to their enemies. While on the way, Masaru sends a bunch of fire attacks at them, but they manage to dodge. Koyori leads the way because she knows what Masaru will do before he does it. This is because she played cards with him earlier and was able to study his moves. Masaru, on the other hand, realizes that Koyori can predict his moves and feels bad because he relied too much on Lily's power. When Tazuna arrives at a building opposite him, he suggests a truce, but Lily declines. Her reason is that she intends to fulfill a wish she has at heart. At this point, she reveals that she loves Masaru, leaving Tazuna shocked. Despite his sister being in love with him, Masaru joins her with her, ready to end Tazuna and Koyori in a single strike. Tazuna does the same with Koyori because he knows that he has nowhere else to go. In this round of battle, Tazuna alters the shape of his Nimrod into a gauntlet. He uses the gauntlet to block deadly attacks from Masaru and succeeds. Unfortunately for Masaru, his sister blocks him from attacking because he has run out of cards. She hugs him and draws him closer to herself because she does not want him to get hurt. Meanwhile, Masaru tells her to believe in him because he feels he can defeat Tazuna. He takes 2 cards from Lily and uses them to attack Tazuna and Koyori. In the end, Tazuna endures the damage from Masaru's attack, and then lands a nasty counterattack on Masaru, which ends their battle instantly. When the ziggurat fades away, Masaru lies in Lily's arms, apologizing for losing to Tazuna. Lily also apologizes because she feels Masaru went through what he did because of her selfish desires. The following day, Tazuna heads over to see Makihara, regarding what he learned from Nagaoka the previous day. He has Koyori outside the door, but she is safe because she is not too far from him. In case the worst happens, she now has a phone for communication. Soon, Tazuna questions Makihara if he was a handshaker in the past. Makihara replies saying yes, but then adds that he did not want to hide it. Tazuna also questions him about Koyori's condition, and he replies saying that Koyori lost her memories and ability to speak in the past. She was born a handshaker and she had a partner before. Tazuna, upon hearing this, becomes curious and questions Makihara about Koyori's previous partner. However, Makihara replies saying that he does not know, adding that Koyori will disappear if she loses her current partner. For this reason, he put her to sleep in the past, just so he can keep her alive for long. After Tazuna listens to this explanation, he understands why Makihara did what he did in the past. When Tazuna leaves the lab, Makihara sits wondering who spoke to Tazuna about his past. Just outside the lab, Tazuna's classmate, Tomoki, sprints towards Tazuna begging for his help. He wants Tazuna to help him speak to President Lily since they are friends. Moments later, Tazuna arrives at the student council room with Koyori to help Tomoki as promised. When he gets into the office, he sees Lily and reveals his business there. Tomoki requested for Tazuna to speak to Lily about the school festival coming up soon. However, seeing Lily in the office makes Tazuna feel bad because he fought against her in the ziggurat. While speaking about his feelings, Lily interrupts him saying that she is the one who attacked him without mercy. She then reveals that her parents are separating, and Tazuna looks shocked when he hears this. He tries to talk to Lily about it, but she declines, saying that a new beginning awaits her. She is happy that her parents are not honest with their feelings, and she claims that she is fine. A while ago, before Tauna got to the office, he spoke to Tomoki about what he wanted from the president. According to Tomoki, he needs to get ingredients for the upcoming festival at a cheap price. He needs the ingredients to be delivered on time, because he assured his classmates that they could count on him. In the present, Tazuna reveals the details about the ingredient crisis to Lily. Lily, on the other hand, assesses the situation and then promises to help Tazuna out without fail. The following day, when Tazuna heads to meet Lily at her office as planned, he finds out that Lily did not deliver as promised. He begs and apologizes to Tazuna for failing him, and then gives an excuse that she forgot. Tazuna thinks about possible connections that he has that he can use to help Tomoki. At sunset, he heads over to meet Chizuru at her restaurant and relays the ingredient issue to her. Chizuru, after hearing his complaints, agrees to help him because it will profit her business too. According to her, the deal will help improve business at the new cafeteria in Tazuna's school. Finally, Tazuna thanks Chizuru for agreeing to help him and then leaves the restaurant with Koyori. When he leaves, Chizuru stares at him from behind and carries a weird smile on her face. Hayate seems suspicious of the smile and questions her about it. Chizuru is quick to deny any evil intentions, but she reveals that she needs to modify her plans. The following day, lots of students prepare for the upcoming festival, which is in a few days. Tazuna set up the cooking equipment for Tomoki, and he was able to deliver the ingredients on time. When Tomoki arrives at the scene, he thanks Tazuna for his efforts because he was able to save costs in acquiring ingredients. The bad news is that the chefs who are supposed to cook for the event have damaged their hands while practicing. Koyori, who was present at the time, analyzes the situation and suggests volunteering to cook, even though she does not know how to. Later that day, while at home, she uses the recipes from her phone to practice cooking some dishes. At first trial, she burns most of the food, but she then improves over time. The next day, she cooks an astonishing dish, which Tazuna's parents approve of when they taste it. Later that day, Koyori heads over to school with Tazuna and delivers the dish she made. Her classmates approve of it but wonder if she is going to be fast enough when cooking on the festival day. One of them promises to assist Koyori while cooking and the others agree to it too. On the day of the festival, Koyori mounts a cooking stand, assisted by Tomoki and Tazuna. Chizuru arrives at the stand with Hayate delivering a nice cooking attire for Koyori. When Koyori puts on the attire, Tazuna gazes at her and realizes how beautiful she is. Another thing is that, while she serves food, other students stand back to admire her beauty. At some point, one of the cooking gas goes off because it is faulty. Because Tazuna does not want it to affect their delivery rate, he takes out his screwdriver and tries to fix the gas. While repairing the gas cooker, he helps to spice up some foods that Koyori is cooking. Doing two things simultaneously is not a problem for him, because he repairs the gas successfully in seconds. Other students who are present at the time smile in awe as they observe the synergy between Tazuna and Koyori. Moments later, Lily arrives with her brother, who intends to help. Before Lily leaves, she exchanges contact info with Koyori so that she can reach out to her anytime. Towards the end of the festival, Makohara congratulates Tazuna because his class won the prize for best booth. He then thanks Tazuna for his efforts in the festival and leaves to attend to some other business. After he leaves, Koyori takes out a 3-course meal and displays it for Tazuna to eat. Tazuna enjoys her meal and experiences foodgasms because of how delicious the food is. After some days, a handshaker named Kodama easily defeats a pair of handshakers in the ziggurat. His manager, Hibiki, who is also her partner, reveals that he has another musical concert gig for her. Kodama is one who likes to quote famous sayings from phenomenal icons. She likes the fact that Hibiki keeps getting her musical gigs and looks forward to her next opponents, which are Tazuna and Koyori. The following day, Awaza fights against Tazuna in the ziggurat and uses her musical powers to her advantage. Tazuna quickly realizes that she is not like other handshakers because of the kind of power she possesses. When Hibiki makes an entrance, Tazuna looks distracted, and he assumes that Hibiki is taking pity on him. He snaps back into reality when Awaza activates her Nimrod and attacks him with it. Awaza easily deals damage to Tazuna regardless of the fact that he is fast. Tazuna falls under the influence of Awaza's attack, wondering how things got so bad for him. Earlier that day, he went to the lab with Koyori to see Maihara as usual. Makihara wants him to get some clothes for Koyori, but he does not know what to buy. Later that day, he heads down to a mall in a quest to find what to get for Koyori. At some point, Koyori displays some pictures of clothes on her phone. When Tazuna sees the pictures, he realizes that Koyori wants him to choose one of the outfits for her. Even at that, he suggests that Lily should choose, but Koyori does not like the idea. In her way, she tells Tazuna that she wants him to choose the outfit for her. Finally, Tazuna agrees and leads the way into the mall. It is his first shopping experience with a girl, and he enjoys it. At some point, he gets some ice cream and shares it with Koyori. After the time at the mall, Koyori heads out with Tazuna holding his hands as usual. This time, she smiles because she had a great time with him. While on the way home, they both get enveloped in the ziggurat, leaving Tazuna shocked. While Tazuna tries to make sense of his situation, an energy blast heads toward him, but he erects his Nimrod for protection. After the blast wears off, Tazuna sees that his opponent, Awaza, is alone and intends to attack her head-on. He then speeds off with Koyori heading to land a kill strike on Awaza. He fails in his attempt to end the battle because Awaza easily blocks his attack. At this point, Tazuna notices that Awaza's powers and the power of her Nimrod are different in a strange way. He tries to run away but gets interrupted by Hibiki, who attacks him with his Nimrod. Awaza, who is behind him at the time, takes out her Nimrod, ready to eliminate Tazuna and Koyori. She emits shock waves, while Hibiki helps to amplify them so they can deal lots of damage to Tazuna and Koyori. During the battle, Tazuna manages to keep up with Awaza to an extent while blocking all of her attacks with his Nimrod. At some point, Awaza prepares a fatal attack on Tazuna. She promises Tazuna that he will die if he does not block the attack with everything he's got. After the attack takes effect, Tazuna and Koyori are nowhere to be found. Hibiki charges in happy that his partner took out their opponents, only to find out that Tazuna survived. Meanwhile, Tazuna lies unconscious on Koyori's body in real time because of the amount of damage he took. Koyori, on the other hand, reaches out to Makihara concerning Tazuna's condition. At this time, she looks sober because Tazuna protected her to the end. Because she cannot speak, she takes a picture of Tazuna and sends it to Makihara so that he can understand what's up. Later that day, Tazuna regains consciousness and finds himself lying in Makihara's lab. He opens his eyes and reveals that he should have lost his previous battle. A while ago, when Tazan was still fighting Awaza in the ziggurat, he punched through the ground and escaped the scene via water with Koyori. The bad thing is that the impact of Awaza's attack caused lots of rocks to enter into the water. Tazuna saw one of the rocks heading for Koyori and then placed himself in a way that would prevent her from taking damage. In doing so, one of the rocks hits his back and he loses an amount of blood. In the present, Tazuna reveals that Awaza's Nimrod was affecting the ziggurat. Makihara, upon hearing this, states that Nimrods can affect the ziggurat if its wielder is closer to the Supreme Being. He also adds that handshakers gain the powers of those that they defeat, and if one takes out more opponents, his Nimrod will infect the ziggurat. Later that evening, Azawa sits in her home worried about her tight schedule. Her manager, Hibiki, arrives at the scene offering to readjust her schedule if it is too tight for her. She declines the offer because she feels that she can handle anything that comes her way. Seconds later, Hibiki receives a call from someone, and what he hears over the phone discourages him. Azawa notices the change in his facial expressions and then questions him about what's up. He then replies saying that one of their shows has been canceled because of the president. After Azawa gets the info, she tells Hibiki not to worry, adding that it is not his fault that their next show has been canceled. That night, Koyori messages Lily about Tazuna's condition. She hates the fact that she does not have a Nimrod to protect Tazuna like he did for her. After Lily reads her messages, she advises her to make Tazuna believe in her. When Koyori gets off the phone with Lily, she climbs, places her hands on Tazuna's head, and weeps because she does not like the fact that he is in pain. The following day, Makihara heads over to the Takatsuki residence to see Tazuna. There, he observes Tazuna's body and finds out that he has a fever. According to him, Tazuna's poor condition stems from the fact that he took lots of damage in his last battle while fighting in the ziggurat. Although his wounds are supposed to heal when he gets back into the real world, he shows little signs of improvement. However, when Makihara suggests that he take more time to recover, he lashes out a bit, saying that his condition is going to get worse. Meanwhile, Koyori, who is present at the time, looks sober because Tazuna is ill. Makihara tells Tazuna that he might die if he fights in his condition. Even after hearing this, Tazuna does not agree with Makihara because he is more concerned about Koyori's life. He is quite aware of the power difference between him and Awaza, but still intends to fight against her to keep Koyori alive. At some point, Tazuna agrees to get some rest, while Makihara heads off to see what he can do to improve Tazuna's health. Moments after Makihara leaves the house, Tazuna changes his mind about resting. He gets up from bed and prepares to leave the house, but Koyori is not on par with his battle intentions. On his way out of the house, his parents call his attention because of the look on Koyori's face. They try to talk Tazuna out of going out, but he refuses to listen to them. Later that afternoon, he gets into the ziggurat and faces Awaza with the intent of eliminating her. While in the ziggurat, Tazuna observes that his Nimrod has some effect on the ziggurat, just like Makihara explained earlier. Instead of attacking Awaza first, he goes after Hibiki because he knows that he amplifies Awaza's shockwaves. Although Hibiki does not look tough, he easily puts up with Tazuna's speed attacks, blocking each one of them. At some point, he lands a speed attack on Tazuna, which sends him flying some meters away from him. The good thing is that he regains his balance while in midair and manages to land safely. The bad thing is that he lands just in front of Awaza, his nemesis. Awaza's powers as compared to yesterday are quite different, and Tazuna is left wondering why. He manages to block Awaza's attacks, but the effect of the attack knocks him to the floor. This time around, he tries to get up but fails since he has lost his strength. For this reason, Koyori gets up and stands in front of Tazuna, signifying that she is going to protect him. Tazuna manages to get up on his feet with the mindset that he will not let anything happen to Koyori. On the other hand, Koyori weeps as she recalls all the good times that she has spent with Tazuna. After having numerous flashbacks, she speaks for the first time, leaving Tazuna shocked Instantly, Koyori's body begins to glow as she levitates into the atmosphere. She displays a tremendous amount of power as her outfit changes and her Nimrod appears. Her Nimrod resembles Tazuna's but with slight modifications. The new look shocks Aizawa as well as Hibiki and Tazuna because they never expected to see such. Koyori assumes an offensive position with the sole aim of protecting Tazuna from any attacks. Conversely, Koyori joins hands with Tazuna, and the ziggurat begins to change gradually. Even at that, Awaza prepares the same deadly attack she did on Tazuna the last time they fought. This time, Tazuna and Koyori erect a shield powerful enough to block the attack. Even Hibiki tries with his full might to destroy the shield but fails as he gets knocked several blocks away. In midair, Tazuna and Kotuyori merge their Nimrods to form a legendary sword to use against Awaza. At the same time, Awaza prepares to unleash her power on her opponents because she does not want to back out of the fight. When both sides clash, she loses and then regrets her actions because her chance of meeting the supreme deity is gone. In the real world, Awaza sits in her apartment, pissed about the fact that she lost. Hibiki, who is present at the time, tries to talk Awaza out of depression, but he fails at first. He then tries a different approach and manages to get through to her. In the end, Hibiki offers to be her manager because he knows that Awaza has potential in the music industry. Awaza takes his offer and smiles because she has someone who still believes in her. Elsewhere, Tazuna apologizes to Koyori for forcing her to join him in the ziggurat. He feels bad about his actions in the past and realizes that he won Awaza because of Koyori's help. Finally, Koyori smiles back at him and thanks him because he always protected her in the past. After some days, Tazuna and Koyori appear before Chizuru in her restaurant practicing how they will attend to customers. Chizuru, who is quite fond of Koyori, seizes the opportunity to take a picture of her without Tazuna's consent. Even when Tazuna finds out, Chizuru takes a picture of him with Koyori against his wishes. Earlier that day, Tazuna and Makihara were present in the Makihara laboratory. There, Makihara sheds tears of joy because of how fast Koyori has improved in health, emotions, and overall behavior, including speech. While Makihara drowns in brief insanity, Tazuna receives a call from Chizuru, who offers him and Koyori a part-time job at her restaurant. Later that day, Tazuna and Koyori appear in front of Chizuru to receive a briefing on how they will carry out their jobs. After Chizuru is done speaking, Tazuna calls her attention saying that he cannot work without Koyori because of her condition. They need to hold hands for as long as possible, so that Koyori can charge up. For this reason, Chizuru allows them to work in the kitchen, where most dishes will be prepared. Another thing is that Chizuru is happy that she gets to see Koyori in her work attire. She gets red cheeks, while staring at her forgetting that she has some work to do. As instructed, Tazuna and Koyori head off to their administered world stations to begin completing tasks. When an order comes in for food, Tazuna begins the preparation process while Koyori supports him from behind. Hayate, who is present at the time, notices their synergy and compliments them for it. He applauds the fact that Koyori and Tazuna have learned pretty fast, regardless of just working for 2 hours in the restaurant. Out of curiosity, Tazuna questions Hayate about why Chizuru chose him and Koyori for the job. Hayate then replies saying that Chizuru chose them because of how they perform it at the school's festival. According to Hayate, Chizuru said that nobody else could move as a pair the way Tazuna and Koyori do. She was quite impressed with the synergy between Koyori and Tazuna at the school's festival, coupled with the fact that Koyori can cook. At some point, Hayate speaks about the future, referring to a time when Tazuna finally lets go of Koyori's hands. He feels that the job will help Tazuna and Koyori in the future, especially when bonding. After Tazuna hears this, the thought of leaving Koyori's hands scares him a bit because he is quite close to her. Afterward, Hayate begins to talk about Chizuru, stressing the fact that she changed ever since she lost to Tazuna in the ziggurat. According to Hayate, Chizuru is really lively when she works and all her employees love her. Seconds later, Chizuru walks into the room and gets the impression that Hayate is saying bad things about her. Out of sheer curiosity, she questions Tazuna and Koyori about what Hayate said, but silence rigs the room. Shockingly, Koyori states that Hayate loves Chizuru, leaving everyone including Hayate shocked. Because of that, Chizuru smacks the hell out of Hayate's butt, but stops to tell Tazuna and Koyori that their friends are looking for them. She then offers them a break period, since they have been working hard for hours. The friends looking for them are Lily and her brother, Masaru. When Tazuna sits, he questions Lily about how she knows he works in the restaurant, and she replies saying that Koyori told her. Koyori told her because she considers her an important friend. Koyori told her because she considers her an important friend. She tells Masaru that she would like to play cards with him and Tazuna, and he accepts. Since Tazuna does not know how to play the game, he requests that Masaru teach him how to play it. At this point, Lily begins to hype Masaru, saying that he is really good at teaching. She goes on to praise Masaru, calling him the Demon Emperor of the card game. Reason being that Masaru won the last card competition and became the champion. However, Lily gets so loud that she gains the attention of everyone in the restaurant while hyping Masaru. This pisses Masaru off and he calls her to order. It gets to the extent that the waitress addresses him as the Demon Emperor when she serves him drinks. As time goes on, Tazuna realizes that his break time is over. He stands up to get back to work, but Koyori tells him to go ahead of her. While he leaves, Koyori appreciates Lily for the advice that she gave her when Tazuna was ill. Lily smiles back at her because she was happy to help. In the end, Koyori leaves the table and joins Tazuna so they can get back to work. Later that afternoon, when Koyori and Tazuna are done with work, Chizuru hands them a paycheck for a job well done. She then offers to hire them as workers in her restaurant because of how well they performed on their first day. Tazuna and Koyori take Chizuru's offer seriously and appreciate her for it. Before they leave, Chizuru suggests that Tazuna goes on a date with Koyori. This alone leaves Tazuna shocked because he has no idea about what he would do on a date. That evening, he heads out with Koyori to check out some places in the city. While at it, he sees Awaza performing happily for a crowd. Hibiki, who is present at the time, offers Tazuna his business card, and then asks to know what he thinks about Awaza's performance. Tazuna in turn smiles, and then reveals that he likes Awaza's song. Moving on, Tazuna heads to a different location with Koyori. There, he receives a call from Makihara telling him to remain at his current location since he is close to them. After the call, he recalls what Hayate said about the future, and then asks Koyori what she would like to do when they stop holding hands. Koyori then replies by saying that she would like to stay with Tazuna. Tazuna feels the same way too, as he would like to stay with Koyori after he is done being a handshaker. Another thing is that Koyori would like to cook in the future and beat Tazuna in the game of cars when he learns eventually. Soon Makihara arrives at the scene and then tries to convince Tazuna and Koyori to join him at an exhibition. Although he offers to pay the entry fees, Tazuna and Koyori reject the offer. Koyori wants to get her favorite parfait and card game so she can teach Tazuna how to play. Makihara is left yelling in frustration because he really wants Tazuna and Koyori to join him at the exhibition. As time goes on, Nagaoka arrives at the scene, catching everyone's attention as he walks. Behind him is a girl named Mayumi who looks just like Koyori but with different hair. It appears that Makihara has a history with Nagaoka because of the way he speaks to him. He questions Nagaoka about how he saved Mayumi's life, but Nagaoka declines to answer the question. On the other hand, Tazuna looks shocked because he finds out that Nagaoka is a handshaker too, just like he is. Nagaoka offers to tell the truth, which Makihara has been hiding from Tazuna and Koyori all along. Several years ago, when Makihara was quite young, he was a handshaker who fought alongside Nagaoka in the ziggurat. At that time, Nagaoka was a good partner with Makihara because he defended him in crucial times. But sometimes, they end up arguing about irrelevant things, with Makihara being the principal cause of the argument. One day, Koyori's parents walk in to meet Makihara running his mouth as always to Nagaoka. Akutagawa, Koyori's dad, is a handshaker as well as his wife. Akutagawa manages a lab on the university campus, where he often meets with Makihara and some other handshakers. It appears that he is involved in the supernatural, only because he wants to study the nature of the ziggurat and other things related. Later that day, he spends some time at the lab with his wife and other researchers who work with him. All of them are well connected in terms of relationships, and they easily laugh at some funny jokes. Later on, Akutagawa's wife shows some signs of weakness, and her husband moves in to see what's up with her. 9 months later, Akutagawa's wife gives birth to twins, Koyori and Mayumi. Tazuna heads into the lab with Nagaoka and congratulates Akutagawa on his wife's delivery. He also stresses the fact that Nagaoka came empty-handed, all because he brought gifts. Although Makihara seems annoying most of the time, Nagaoka manages to put up with keeping in mind that he has poor communication skills. It appears that Akutagawa was pulled into the ziggurat alongside his wife just before the twins were born. Nagaoka and Makihara were the ones who stood against the enemy handshakes to ensure that the twins were born safely. The following day, Akutagawa, his wife, and some other researchers gather in his lab to conduct some experiments on the twins. When Akutagawa joins Koyori's hand with Mayumi's, he finds out that the ziggurat is triggered, making him realize that his kids are born handshakers. This alone makes Akutagawa happy because he feels that his daughters are blessed with unique abilities. He sees as the form of a new humanity and wonders if humans were originally meant to be like that. As time went on, when Koyori and Mayumi aged a bit, they often got attacked by handshakers. One day, Makihara and Nagaoka slay an unlucky handshaker who goes after the twins. After saving them, Makihara is left wondering wondering if there is hope for humanity at all. On the other hand, Akutagawa looks pissed over the fact that other handshakers are after his daughters. Another troubling factor is that his daughters will die if they lose in the ziggurat. Months later, Koyori and Mayumi lie unconscious in the laboratory. Nagaoka is quite pissed about their condition, and he hates the fact that Makihara is acting all the same. Seconds later, Akutagawa arrives at the lab with his wife looking different than usual. At the time he arrives, his daughters coincidentally regain consciousness. According to Makihara's reports, the twins were attacked, but the good thing is that Nagaoka and his partner intervened. Akutagawa is quite fed up with the condition of his daughters, and he aims to defeat the supreme deity even though his scientific data deems it possible or not. He feels quite closer to the supreme deity because all he has to do is defeat another pair of handshakers. After that day, he vanished, and no one heard from him again. It gets to a point where a funeral is organized in his name and that of his wife because of their indefinite absence. On the day of the funeral, Koyori and Mayumi fall unconscious and enter a coma. Since then, Makihara and Nagaoka kept them alive while they were in a coma. One day, Nagaoka runs out of patience and reveals that he will continue from where Akutagawa stopped. Makihara tries his best to oppose him but fails. In the end, Nagaoka escapes the lab with Mayumi, leaving Makihara weak on the ground. In the present, Nagaoka reveals that he used a method to keep Mayumi alive up to the present. When Makihara hears this, he realizes that Nagaoka used drugs on Mayumi to keep her alive. He was able to think so fast because the idea of the drugs was his idea in the first place. However, the downside of the drug is that Mayumi will die very soon. Along the line, Nagaoka reveals that he is the one responsible for most of the handshakers who attacked Tazuna and Koyori. This alone leaves Tazuna shocked, but what scares him the most is the fact that Nagaoka knows how he fights. To wrap things up, Nagaoka presents an offer to Tazuna saying that Koyori should be put to sleep, adding that he will take care of the rest. From the way Koyori behaves, Tazuna realizes that she wants to fight. For this reason, Tazuna declines Nagaoka's offer and enters the ziggurat with Koyori ready to fight. In the ziggurat, Nagaoka and his partner change into their battle attire, intending to fight against their opponents. While in the ziggurat, Nagaoka uses his powers to attack Tazuna and Koyori. Because he has an unfair advantage over them, Tazuna falls back with Koyori so that he can re-strategize his moves. While fleeing, Mayumi's Nimrods catch up to Tazuna, making it easy for Nagaoka to catch up to them. At this point, Tazuna tries to catch his breath because of the energy he used in fleeing. He tries to counterattack Nagaoka when he attacks, but fails to deal damage to him. Instead, Koyori assists him with her Nimrod to serve as protection from any attack. She manages to erect the shield for a while, but then gets knocked off alongside Tazuna when Nagaoka intensifies his attack. When the smoke clears out, Mayumi arrives at the scene and stands at a point which places Tazuna and Koyori between her and Nagaoka. Even at that, Tazuna looks positive that he will win because he is not alone. On the other hand, Nagaoka orders Mayumi to fight, but it appears that she is weak. This is because the way she fights causes her to destroy her Nimrod and create them over and over again. With this knowledge, Tazuna yells at Nagaoka because Mayumi will disappear if she keeps up in the battle. Little does he know that Nagaoka intends to defeat him before Mayumi gives up the ghost. In anger, Tazuna leads an attack against Nagaoka, and Koyori follows behind him. They both land a series of speed punches in Nagaoka, but fail to deal enough damage on him. In their next attempt, Mayumi regains herself and summons a bunch of Nimrods heading for them. They manage to dodge the Nimrods and then send fragments of their Nimrods at Nagaoka to keep him busy. To evade the explosions, Tazuna heads to high ground with Koyori, and Nagaoka follows him. Nagaoka knows exactly why Tazuna arrived at that spot, and it appears that he has something planned out for Tazuna. In seconds, an explosion consumes part of the building, knocking Tazuna and Koyori in midair. While under the influence of gravity, Koyori merges her Nimrod with Tazuna's, and it alters the fabric of the ziggurat. After that, they both glide through space using the legendary weapon to fight against Nagaoka. At some point, Nagaoka clashes with them in midair, and his power overwhelms them. On the next trial, Koyori intensifies her powers and helps Tazuna deal lots of damage to Nagaoka. In the end, Nagaoka kneels weakly on the ground, as he barely has the strength to stand. Mayumi, who is present at the time, steps in to use her trump card against Koyori and Tazuna. Although Mayumi is at her peak, she intends to protect Nagaoka from Tazuna and Koyori. She reveals this to Nagaoka, who looks shocked at the time because she speaks. On the other hand, Tazuna and Koyori see an opportunity to get across to Mayumi to save her from herself. When Mayumi activates her power, Koyori and Tazuna dive swiftly and hold her hand to prevent her from disappearing. This alone leaves Nagaoka shocked because Tazuna and Koyori are supposed to be fighting against Mayumi, not helping her. In the end, Mayumi gets her memories and feelings back as she reverts to normal. They all appear back in the real world because Nagaoka has lost his fighting spirit. Their presence shocks Makihara, who was standing at one spot the whole time. Finally, Mayumi makes peace with her sister, and then heads off with Nagaoka. Makihara stares at them from a distance and smiles, recalling the fact that Nagaoka is terrible at speaking. After a month, Makihara runs tests on Koyori and reveals the results to Tazuna. It appears that Koyori is more healthy than ever, but her nature has not changed. If left without charging for long, she will still perish. Even with this knowledge, Tazuna smiles because he gets to be with Koyori. Out of curiosity, Tazuna questions Makihara about Nagaoka's whereabouts, and he replies that he does not know. Makihara also adds that Nagaoka will be easy to find if he searches for him. Elsewhere, Mayumi walks with Nagaoka along a beautiful garden. Due to the fact that Nagaoka is serious all the time, Mayumi blushes when he brings up the topic of eating parfait. They both speak about their wishes from the supreme deity, and Nagaoka reveals that he wants to save Koyori and Mayumi from their destined fate. However, Mayumi has something else in mind and she does not say. At sunset, Tazuna strolls along the city with Koyori and gains the attention of Break, the first handshaker he fought. Although Break lost to him in the past, he wishes for Tazuna and Koyori to fight and defeat the supreme deity. In the end, Tazuna and Koyori join hands together and enter the ziggurat walking due north. Meanwhile, an unidentified individual watches them from a distance. The opening scene comes up with the narrator's voice talking about how people can hold each other's hands to fight in another world, so that their wishes can come to pass. Those who do it to the extreme are blessed, and they are known to meet or become the supreme being. Elsewhere, a guy, Bun, is seen listening to a music mix from a DJ known as WZ. He asks his associate, Tamatama, if the mix is good, and she says yes. At the same time, there are different people watching the video of what's playing, and they can all agree that he is talented. Everyone who listens to the song somehow falls in love with it and is ready to risk it all just to keep it playing. Up next, a middle schooler, Yukiya, arrives at the train station with the intention of boarding a train. As he walks past the other people in the train station, his hand accidentally touches a lady, and the lady immediately sees herself in a whole different world. Yukiya knows he caused it, and he quickly reverses the effect of the accident. Once this is done, he is relieved that the lady has no idea about what happened. The lady continues with what he is doing like there is nothing wrong. Yukiya takes out his phone to check the high school he plans to attend because they have a music department. At the same time, he receives a message from his dad, telling him that he doesn't approve of the fact that he is attending a music school after he graduates from middle school. The name of the high school he plans to attend is Kita Asuka Academy, and his father doesn't seem to approve of this for some reasons known to him. Moments later, Yukiya gets on the train, and two girls are seen admiring him. They even take a picture of him because they find him cute. After exiting the train, he runs into a guy, Masaru Hojo, who claims that he is one of his father's acquaintances. Yukiya has not heard of the guy before, but the guy doesn't seem to take offense in this. He asks Yukiya how old he is, and he says 14. Yukiya asks the guy if he knows about Asuka Academy too, which he says yes. Masaru tells him that he should meet up with a person named Akudagawa when he gets to the school. Yukiya is about to ask if the said person is in the music department when Yukiya's friend, Haruka, shows up. The arrival of Yukiya's friend prompts Masaru to leave, and he tells the boy that he will be seeing him later. Haruka then reveals her desire to also check out Asuka Academy, just like Yukiya wants to. She calls it a coincidence, but her face says otherwise. It appears that she is interested in the school because Yukiya has plans to go there. Yukiya has plans to go that day, but Haruka informs him that he has made a mistake. The school is not taking tests for interested music candidates that day. The day is for engineering and regular students. Yukiya is sad to hear this, and he realizes that he must have mixed up the dates. He then mentions the fact that things are not mesh at the moment, which is a DJ term. After this, the two decide to visit a restaurant and have a meal. While they are eating, Yukiya starts to talk about the nice things he knows about Haruka. He knows her for being optimistic, even though others are not. After this, Yukiya talks about how poorly the music video he posted is doing. He is worried that he doesn't have the talent to push people on the internet. However, Haruka disagrees with this and says she knows that Yukiya is an amazing person. Haruka then reveals that she has a plan to help Yukiya's video and career. She wants them to perform a hook, and Yukiya needs to pick a location for this. Soon afterward, the two pick a night where the performance is to happen. They set up a disc jockey stage in the middle of a popular area where people are always passing by. Haruka is ready to perform alongside Yukiya while he plays his music. When the show is about to start, Yukiya tells Haruka to hold his hand. She is reluctant to do this, but he lets her know that she can do it even if it is just this once. Immediately after she does this, The two get transported to the other world, and Haruka is blown away by this. On the other hand, Yukiya is happy that he is able to bring his equipment to the other world. He starts to set things up, and he gives Haruka a mask to wear, which he does the same too. He begins to play, and this is broadcasted to all the outlets. The people get to the location where the performance should be coming from, but there is no sign of Yukiya, who is known as Yuas. Two girls figure that the broadcast is coming from the other world, and they plan to crash the party. Two guys are also planning to defeat WZ and collect the power that allows him to bring stuff into the other world. There are several people who are watching him, and they refer to WZ as the irregular handshaker. W's continues to perform with his whole spirit poured into it. Haruka stands some feet away and dances to the music being played, and this is to keep the audience glued. Suddenly, two girls show up, and they attack the two. But Yukiya manages to carry Haruka away from danger. He stays on top of a house and asks the two girls about their identity. One of them is Hana, while the other is Senri. Things are not yet settled when two other guys join the fight too. They attack Yukiya, but he manages to block the attack, and this leaves them impressed. The two guys opt not to use their real names. The two introduce themselves as Rigel Pile and Betelgeuse Pile. They demand to see Haruka's Nimrod, which is basically the weapon they use in the other world. Unknown to them, Haruka doesn't have one, because she doesn't have the powers that they have. In short, she is not a handshaker, and she is not there to fight to get her wish granted. Yukiya realizes that the two pairs are very serious when it comes to fighting him. He calms Haruka down and lets her know that everything will soon be over. In addition, Haruka will have no knowledge of what happened in the other world once they leave. The two pairs come after WZ, but he manages to hold out. There is no unity between the guys and the girls, and they end up fighting themselves while also battling it out with Yukiya. The battle soon gets intense, which leaves a big explosion. Senri and Hana want to use this time to recharge, only to find out that W's has used the explosion as a cover to escape with Haruka. The Pile brothers and the girls end up having a crackdown, but nothing violent happens. Later on, Yukiya manages to return to the real world with Haruka by her side. Just like he said, Haruka has no memory of what happened. Yukiya starts to wonder when he will go back for the turntable and the other stuff. Up next, Haruka and Yukiya make their way to Asuka Academy. There are several other students who are in line for the engineering course. They find one of the staff and ask him about Akutagawa's whereabouts. Yukiya is shocked when he finds out that Akutagawa is not in the music department. She specializes in cultural anthropology, the man says. Yukiya is about to get demotivated when someone shows up to tell him that Akutagawa is asking for him. Yukiya and Haruka head to Akutagawa's office immediately after they receive the invitation from her. They get to her office and Yukiya is impressed with the amount of books that are in her office. He steps further close to the lady and it feels like he is in another world. He gets carried by this until the lady touches him to bring him back to reality. The lady offers Yukiya and Haruka a seat to sit down while they talk. Akutagawa, who is also known as Koyori, prepares tea for them. Yukiya apologizes for imposing, but she doesn't see it as that. She has been expecting Yukiya because she has heard a lot about him from Masaru, and she loves his music too. Haruka realizes that the two are about to get into some serious conversation and offers to step out. However, she consumes the cake that was served before she leaves. After she is gone, Koyori mentions the fact that Haruka and Yukiya are close, and Yukiya says they have known each other for some time. Koyori quickly drops the conversation and gets into the real deal that she wants to talk about. She mentions the fact that she knows about the other world, which is known as Ziggurat. This is because she used to be a handshaker just like Yukiya. She asks Yukiya to tell her more about himself, and he reveals that he can take anyone to Ziggurat, but they will not be able to summon a Nimrod. In addition to that, they forget everything once they leave. He wonders why he has such powers because he is the only one who can do these things. Koyori stands up and holds Yukiya's hands, but nothing happens. Koyori then confirms that she has lost all access to the other world. However, she needs Yukiya's help to help find two people. These are Nagaoka and her big sister, Mayumi. She wants Yukiya to help out because he is the only person who can enter Ziggurat from anywhere. At the same time, she feels like she is making selfish requests, but Yukiya is ready to help because he wants a purpose for his power. He doesn't have a purpose like other handshakers who either want a wish to be granted or have a partner to begin with. Koyori then assures Yukiya that she is also willing to help him out because a lot of people will be coming after him. He holds the ultimate power to Ziggurat, and a lot of people will want this. She wants to ask for help from her friends who used to be handshakers too. They don't have Nimrods again, but they should still be able to help, she says. Yukiya is relieved to hear the fact that there are people who will go out of their way to help him. Meanwhile, the Pile partners are busy talking about how they want to defeat WZ and take his power so that they can have their wish of staying in Ziggurat forever granted to them. They want to systematically hunt him down, but are also worried about the two girls getting in their way again. At the same time, Hana and Senri are seen talking about how they want WZ's power so that they can be the proper partners. While they are it, they receive messages from a person known as Composer, who is always checking on them. They have never met Composer, but from his or her name. It sounds like someone who makes music. Hana's desire to defeat W's then increases with this. Later that day, Yukiya and Haruka begin their journey back home, and Yukiya mentions the fact that he likes Koyori because she understands him and his music personality very well. The two then talk about how good the school is a good place to be. Haruka notices something weird about the way Yukiya talks when it comes to Koyori, and she mentions the fact that Yukiya might be in love with the lady, but he denies this. Shortly afterward, the two go their separate ways. Yukiya is about to enter his room when he thinks about the statement that Haruka made. He steps into the house, and his parents are already waiting for him. His father wants all the details of everything that happened to him that day, and he offers to tell his parents everything over dinner. Up next, the narrator's voice comes up to explain how humanity's original power was the ability to speak to each other without the language barrier. However, the Supreme Being takes this away when humans try to build a tower to reach the Supreme Being. We then see a bike rider who just finished helping a man fix his car, and after he is done with this, he gets back on the road. Elsewhere, Yukiya is worried about the pull that his music video is having on the internet, and he deletes it. Shortly afterward, Haruka is seen talking about how Yukiya has contacted her for something that she believes is quite important. Her delusional thoughts make her believe that Yukiya is about to ask her out. She soon finds Yukiya, who then tells her that he has deleted his video because of the negative and positive comments that it is getting. However, he has a problem because the video won't just disappear from the internet, and it seems it is spreading like wildfire. Meanwhile, Bunbun is watching all of Yukiya's moves, and he wonders what Yukiya has in store to stop the video from spreading further. In the next scene, Masaru and his partner Riri sit down in a cafe to have a drink. A lady who is small in stature, Chizuru thanks the two for coming after she invited them, but Masaru reminds her that he was the one who suggested the meeting. Moments later, Koyori shows up at the cafe, and it turns out that those present inside the cafe are former handshakers. Surprisingly, Senri works in the cafe, but Chizuru sends her home before the meeting begins. She lies to her that the group is having a class reunion to avoid any form of suspicion from her. After she is gone, the group makes an account of those who are absent and the reason why they are. Koyori's partner, Tazuna, is also absent due to certain reasons. Shortly afterward, Yukiya's father, Rei, enters the room and he goes after Masaru. He holds him by the shirt and he berates him for trying to get Yukiya involved more in Ziggurat's business. Masaru argues that the boy needs to be more involved in the affairs of the other world so that he can have the experience he needs, but Rei doesn't believe in this. Tension keeps rising between the two, and those present in the room quickly step in to defuse the situation. After this is settled, Koyori apologizes for dragging Yukiya further into Ziggurat's business, but Rei lets her know that he doesn't blame her. The person he blames is Masaru, who told her about Yukiya, even after he knows what the boy means to him. Koyori reveals that she needs Yukiya's help to find Nagaoka and Mayumi, but Rei doesn't approve of this. He reminds them that he made a promise to let the boy have a normal life. The boy doesn't even know that he is not his biological father but his adopted father. He explains that Yukiya was born and raised in Ziggurat, and he took him in from some people in Ziggurat, with the promise that the boy will not be exposed to the world. Those present in the cafe try to convince Rei that Yukiya is already exposed to the other world, and some people even know about his power. In addition to this, he can even bring something with him into Ziggurat. Koyori then says there is a possibility that Yukiya will be able to bring something out of Ziggurat too. This was her father's research, and he sees Ziggurat as the reflection of the real world. Since you can take something into it, you should be able to bring something out of it. This then gives the group an idea that Yukiya is a target more than they even thought of before. Because of this, it is essential that he has someone by his side to protect him. Koyori then bows to Rei and begs him to give his blessing to his son helping her, but he surprises everyone when he refuses again. Rei says he is tired of dealing with handshakers, and he stands up to leave. His wife, Yukin, joins him, and they both leave the cafe. On their way home, Ray lets out his emotions concerning how he has always wanted Yukiya to stay away from Ziggurat because everything about the other world is violent, and he doesn't want this. His wife then lets him know that he might not want this for his son, but his son might be interested in the other world, and all they need to do for him is to protect him. The two end up ending the conversation on a lovely note, and they hold each other's hands as they walk back home. Later on, Yukiya joins Kori and the rest of the former handshakers in the cafe, and Kori is very happy to see him. Meanwhile, a man is informed that Kori has made a move. At the same time, the pile partners and the ladies are planning to go after Yukiya again. Elsewhere, the bike guy arrives in the city. Apparently, the guy who just arrived in the city is Tazuna, and he is the one who has presumably met the Supreme Being. Everything that is happening is being reported to the one guy who is always standing by his window. Up next, Yukiya and the owner of the cafe, Hayate, step into the other world to search for Nagaoka and Koyori's sister. Yukiya holds his hands before they enter, but once they are in, the two stop holding each other. The guy knows the rules governing Yukiya's powers, and he knows how to operate around it. In addition to this, he retained his memories from when he was able to enter into Ziggurat by himself. Hayate mentions the fact that Yukiya should be able to get along well with Tazuna. Yukiya doesn't know who Tazuna is, and the guy explains that Tazuna is a powerful handshaker, whom he and Chizuru lost to. He is also Koyori's partner. Yukiya hears this and gets angry that Tazuna left Koyori all by herself, but the guy lets him know that he is not around because of his job. Furthermore, he is also looking around the world for Nagaoka and Mayumi. The following day, Yukiya rants in front of Haruka about how Tazuna left Koyori all by herself. Haruka is surprised to see this because she hardly sees Yukiya stressing over something. She starts thinking of a way to get him to calm down, and she manages to find the perfect solution. She asks him if he likes DJ Nielsen, and this guy happens to be one of his favorite DJs. In fact, he looks up to the guy and wishes that he can perform like him. Haruka then surprises Yukiya when she shows him the tickets she acquired so that the two can attend his music fest together. Yukiya wonders if Haruka is fine with taking him along, and she says yes. Yukiya doesn't seem to know that Haruka likes him and might even be interested in him. Yukiya happily takes the ticket and reveals that he is excited about going. However, Yukiya takes a look at the date on the ticket and realizes that he is supposed to go on a search with Chizuru that same day. Haruka is worried that Yukiya will not be able to make it, but he assures her that he will get things done quickly on time so that he can attend the fest with Haruka. It is the day of the festival, and it appears that Yukiya's enemies are planning to enter Ziggurat too. Moments later, Yukiya and Chizuru step into the other world and they start searching for leads concerning Koyori's sister and the other person they are looking for. As they walk together, Chizuru reveals that Koyori once had it rough because she would even disappear from the real world if she was not holding hands with Tazuna, but all of that changed when she met with the Supreme Being. She reveals that she and the cafe owner, Hayate, are partners, but they lost to Tazuna and Koyori. Chizuru reveals that she wanted her wishes to be granted back then. She then asks Yukiya if he has a wish or something that he desires just like everyone else. After they are done searching, Yukiya and Chizuru step back into the real world, and the first person they come across is Haruka, who mistakes Chizuru for an elementary schooler because of her small stature. Haruka believes that the two are on a date, but Chizuru assures her that there is nothing of such. Chizuru actually counts Haruka and Yukiya going to the fest together as a date, but Haruka tries to brush this off. Suddenly, the Pile brothers show up, and Chizuru realizes that they are in a bit of a mess. She immediately grabs Yukiya's hand and she tells Haruka that she needs to borrow Yukiya for some moment. The two immediately disappear right in front of Haruka, and the same thing happens to the Pile brothers. Chizuru and Yukiya start running away, but the Pile brothers chase after them. They catch up to them, and a fight breaks out, but Yukiya manages to hold out. Suddenly, Senri and Hana join the fight, and this makes things even worse for Yukiya. Senri and Chizuru are shocked to see each other, and this gives Senri the idea that Yukiya can change partners. With this, the Pile brothers get more serious. They decide to make a deal that whoever defeats Yukiya will get to take his power. The fight begins, and Yukiya tells Chizuru that he has once fought the pairs before, but they were not united just like they currently are. As the fight continues, Yukiya finds it hard to hold out against the two. He even gets injured in his arm while he tries to block the successive attacks coming at him. Chizuru tells Yukiya that he is no match for the pairs because he doesn't have a wish or someone to protect as the pairs do. The unexpected happens, and Chizuru realizes that she can summon her Nimrod, and this is thanks to Yukiya's power. Chizuru's Nimrod grants them the ability to split herself and her partner. They turn into multiple versions of themselves, and they charge forward toward their enemies. The pairs soon find out that Chizuru and Yukiya have tricked them with fake images of themselves, and have actually escaped from the scene. However, they are able to track Chizuru and Yukiya down. There is no way for the two to fight against 4 people, and there is no way for them to escape too. Chizuru is already scared and a drop of sweat drops from her chin. Just then, someone arrives at the scene and he turns out to be Tazuna. He apologizes for being late. He holds Yukiya's hands and displays the immense power he holds inside of him. It is about to be an intense fight between the feared Tazuna, unexplained powers of Yukiya against the pairs who want Yukiya's power for themselves. The Pile partners are impressed with the fact that Yukiya can actually change partners. They try to take on Tazuna, but he easily takes the first brother down and even sends a damaging effect to the second's weapon. The girls stand back when they see this and Tazuna decides to make them an offer. He wants them to back off and the two pairs realize that he is not someone who they can take on. The 4 decide to retreat for the time being and come back to hunt Yukiya later. Later on, Tazuna explains to Yukiya that the Pile partners were able to find him because there was a transmitter placed on him. This must have happened during the first battle he had with the two. Kori then asks him about the music fest he was supposed to attend, and Yukiya reveals that he attended the fest with Haruka, but he was late. Nonetheless, they were able to have fun. Tazuna continues to discuss with Yukiya, and he talks about how he and Yukiya are similar, but Yukiya doesn't want to believe this. He screams at Tazuna like he hates him, but Tazuna manages to defuse the situation. He then extends his hand toward Yukiya and asks him if he is ready to enter Ziggurat with him again. Yukiya accepts the deal, and they enter into Ziggurat. Tazuna takes them to the first place he entered, the first time he got to Ziggurat. He asks Yukiya to show him his Nimrod, which he does. He summons the Nimrod, and Yukiya's Nimrod looks like a disc. Yukiya even names his Nimrod Disc. Tazuna then shows his own Nimrod, which looks like the parts of a gear. Tazuna tells Yukiya that this is the reason he sees them as the same. Yukiya starts to wonder why anyone would want his power, because he believes that the power only brings trouble to those who possess it. Tazuna then tells him that handshakers are used to violence. He reveals how he ran away the first time he entered Ziggurat after he was attacked by seasoned handshakers. Yukiya starts to wonder why he is a handshaker because he has no wish like the others. Tazuna reveals that the only thing driving him back then was his desire to protect Kori. Yukiya starts to wonder if he has anyone he wants or needs to protect. Meanwhile, the Pile partners are seen talking about Tazuna and how amazing he is. Even with this, they still have plans to take another swing at Yukiya or Tazuna. They need Yukiya's power to achieve their goal of going to space. On the other hand, Senri and Hana are also talking about Tazuna and how strong he is. Senri is reluctant to go to work because she literally just attacked her boss. They contact the composer to tell him about this, and he lets them know that they cannot defeat Tazuna with the way they are. They will need to get stronger if they are going to have a chance against him. The two figure out that they can get stronger if they are able to hold hands and make their hearts one. A flashback scene shows how Senri was the first to become friends with Hana when they were in kindergarten. After this, Hana saved Senri from bullies when they were in elementary school. Following this pattern, they have always been there to protect and save each other. One day they were outside, holding hands when they suddenly found themselves in Ziggurat. Without wasting time, they were attacked, but they managed to survive. Now, in the present day, the two decide to go after Yukiya when Tazuna is not there. The composer gives them a location of where Yukiya is, and they start to act on it. Yukiya is at school discussing with Haruka when the two ladies show up. They waste no time in attacking him, but he manages to grab Haruka and take her to safety. However, Haruka is injured in the process of this. They are about to have a face-off on a clear field. Yukiya tells Haruka to run away and leave him to deal with the two, but Haruka refuses and offers to stay with him while he does his thing. They start attacking him, and he manages to block off a few of their attacks, but he is soon injured because of the large number of hits coming towards him all at once. While this is happening, Haruka remembers how she and Yukiya met when they were kids. It was Yukiya's parents who brought Yukiya to Haruka so that they could become friends. Yukiya finds it hard to speak at the start, but he later gets used to things with more time he spends with Haruka. This was Rei and Yukun's plan from the onset, because Yukiya finds it hard to speak since he arrived from Ziggurat. They continue to spend more time together, and at first, Haruka's plan was to become Yukiya's elder sister. But things changed along the way. She realizes that she has been lying to Yukiya all this while. Yukiya has received so many hits, and he is already feeling weak. Senri and Hana then decide to use all of their power to take him down. The two let go of the feelings they have for each other, and this charges up their strength. They come charging toward him with full force, but he manages to hold them off even though he is weak already. He admits that they are strong, but he wants to protect Haruka no matter what. He holds out as the two keep pushing him backward. Haruka then holds Yukiya's hands with the intention of telling him something, but she finds it hard to do so. This then gives Yukiya more urge to protect Haruka, and his energy gets charged up. With this new bust of strength, He cuts through the two, and surprisingly, he defeats them. The two fall to the ground and disappear from Ziggurat, with the regret that they are unable to protect each other. Yukiya then remembers what Tazuna told him about his strength coming from his desire to protect Koyori. It appears that the same thing is currently happening to Yukiya. They return to the real world and Yukiya is relieved that Haruka is saved, but she doesn't seem to remember what happened in Ziggurat as usual. Later on, Senri and Hana meet Chizuru, Yukiya, and the other former handshakers at the cafe. Senri and Hana apologize to Yukiya for attacking him and reveal that the composer lied to them. He even blocked them after they lost the battle. They wouldn't have come after Yukiya if they knew that all it takes for them to be able to hold hands normally is to lose a battle in Ziggurat. Yukiya assures them that he is not taking any offense in what happened. It turns out that Hana will start working at the cafe because Senri will soon move out of the city. After this, they decide to talk about how the two were able to find Yukiya. They reveal that they have no idea about the transmitter, but they were able to know where Yukiya is because of the composer. Just then, Masaru enters the room and reveals that he has already figured out a way how the composer was able to know where Yukiya is even though he has no transmitter on him. He explains that the transmitter only made an analysis of the most certain place Yukiya will be at a particular time. All he did was a prediction that came in clutch for him. Yukiya is worried that he has gotten his father and mother mixed up in his troubles. He is also worried about Haruka at the same time. Masaru then tells Senri and Hana that they want them to call out the pile partners, Masataka and Guy. The two decide to do this because they owe Yukiya, but they owe the pile partners nothing. Masaru is also worried about the fact that the composer is still out there spreading false information to other vulnerable handshakers. When it is time for Masaru and the girls to leave, Yukiya also offers to go with them. He knows that it might escalate to a full-blown fight, and he is willing to take the risk. Shortly afterward, Masataka and Guy expose themselves because they believe that they are meeting with Senri and Hana in an attempt to go after Yukiya, but they are shocked when the girls show up with other handshakers with them. When Masataka and Guy ask Yukiya what he wants, he tells them that he wants them to delete the transmitter's records with them, or he will not hesitate to take them on. Guy and Matasaka decide to take the hard way out by engaging in a fight against Yukiya, Masaru, and Riri. A flashback scene shows how Masataka and Guy met at an observatory. This is where the two became close because of their love for space. They were young, but they knew about stars, and they were always talking about them. Continuing with the battle between the two groups, Masaru uses his power to grab and hold Guy down. This gives Yukiya the chance to go after Masataka. Guy screams out in pain and frustration when he sees this, but there is nothing he can do at the moment. This gives him the time to reflect on the time he has spent with Masataka. It was during one of those moments in the observatory that the two picked the pile name for themselves. As Yukiya charges toward Masataka, Masataka fires a shot at him, but he manages to dodge it. Masataka realizes that separating from Guy has reduced the number of shots he can make and how much power he can put into it. Meanwhile, Tazuna and Koyori are out on what appears to be a date. Koyori is worried about Yukiya, but Tazuna says she should not worry because Masaru is with him. The two soon run into Nielsen, who informs them that there is trouble. He tells them that Okwiki Group and Midori. Okwiki are on the move. Koyori remembers the Okwiki Group to be her father's sponsor. A quick scene shows the man by the office window, and he turns out to be Midori. Apparently, the composer takes orders directly from Midori. Midori has something sinister in store for Yukiya and Haruka, as their images are on his computer screen. Guy continues to remember the good memories he has had with Masataka, and this is enough for him to break free from the shackles that are holding him down. He runs after Yukiya in an attempt to stop him from getting to Masataka. Masataka fires a shot that Yukiya confidently dodges, and this goes straight into Guy's body. Yukiya also cuts through Masataka, and with this, the two are defeated. After this, they meet in real life, and the pile partners delete all the transmitter records that they have on Yukiya. They end up chatting like they have been friends and not enemies afterward. In school, Yukiya and Haruka run into each other, and Haruka finds out that Yukiya is currently registering to play at the school cultural festival. She asks if he will be playing as W's, but he says no. He wants to play as his normal self and see how it plays out. Haruka encourages him and says she is confident that he is going to ace the performance and come out on top, unlike her. Before they can continue the conversation, Haruka's presence is needed by her music group, and she runs along before she delays them further. As she runs away, Haruka remembers the first time Yukiya acquired his dad's old turntable. Yukiya wasted no time in practicing with the equipment, and he took Nielsen as his role model. Because Yukiya was into music, Haruka decided that she would join music too. And this is the reason she started playing guitar. She wants to try her hardest to make sure that she is able to meet up to Yukiya's standards. However, there is a lie that she is withholding from Yukiya. She remembers something that happened in their past, but claims that she doesn't. Up next, Tazuna and Yukiya take a stroll in Ziggurat, and while they do this, Tazuna lets him know that they will also take a walk when they return to the real world. Tazuna keeps to his world when they get back to the real world. He asks Yukiya to follow him because he wants to show him to some places where he is a regular. Yukiya still doesn't trust Tazuna, but he is ready to follow him around because Koyori trusts him. As they do this, Tazuna realizes that he is the only one having fun because he has just been taking Yukiya to the places he will visit if he is alone. He then asks Yukiya if there is a place that he would like to go to. Yukiya has a music store around and he takes him there. Upon getting there, Yukiya starts talking about music, but Tazuna has no idea what he is talking about because it is not machine parts like he is used to. Tazuna then reveals that he was a whole lot like Yukiya when he was younger. His only friends were machine parts that he plays and messes with. However, he started having friends as he grew older. Meeting Koyori and fighting as a handshaker also had its own effect on him. To end the conversation, Tazuna tells Yukiya that there is a reason he has his powers. Just then, Koyori shows up and the two start acting weird because of how beautiful she looks in her dress and makeup. Koyori lets it out that she wants to go karaoke, and the two agree to abide by her wish. They get to the karaoke room, and Koyori suggests that Tazuna sing the song that he is used to. Tazuna happily stands up to sing, but all Yukiya can hear is Tazuna singing off-key, but he cannot complain about this. After they exit the building, Koyori reveals that she would like to come back there with Nagaoka and her big sister one day. Tazuna assures her that they will, and this makes her smile. Yukiya then begs Tazuna for a favor, and Tazuna lets him know that he is down to help him when it comes to anything. He takes Tazuna home and shows him his old DJ equipment because he wants Tazuna to help him fix it. Tazuna gets to work on it, and in no time, he is done fixing it up. The equipment now moves the way he wants it to because he will be performing at the cultural festival. Just then, Yukiya's father barges into the room when he hears noises from Yukiya's room. Rei is shocked to see Tazuna, and he runs over to hug him. Yukiya has no idea that the two know each other, and this forces his father that he was once a handshaker too. Tazuna and Koyori then sit down to have dinner with the family. While they are at it, Yukiya reveals his regret that he once got Haruka hurt, even after his father warned him not to touch people's hands. He took Haruka to Ziggurat, where she eventually got hurt. Yukiya is hurt that all he does is bring harm to the people around him. This was the reason he lied to Haruka that what happened back then was a dream. He sobs as he talks about all of this, and his father starts to console him. He tells him to do things the way that he wants. At the same time, in Haruka's room, she realizes that she cannot keep lying to Yukiya. In the next scene, Haruka's music team complains that she is out of sync again. This is happening because her mind is not settled, and she is not thinking straight because of the Yukiya's matter that is on her mind. Later on, Koyori finds Haruka and invites her to her office. She lets it known that Yukiya made a confession that there is something he would love to tell Haruka. Koyori knows that the same applies to Haruka, and she lets her know that there are things that can only be expressed if they are let out. Haruka starts to cry, and she reveals that she is worried that she is dragging Yukiya down because he is such a nice person who worries about the people around him. She believes that she is no good to Yukiya, but doesn't want to leave him and doesn't care if she is selfish for that. She starts to sob, and Koyori hugs her to try and comfort her. Koyori is able to get through to her, and she asks her what she really wants to do. Haruka reveals that she doesn't want to lie anymore. Up next, Tazuna informs Hayate and Chizuru that he has been able to figure out the composer's identity. He lets them know that things are bad because the Okwiki group is involved, and especially Midori Okwiki. His father once sponsored Koyori's father's research, and he probably knows everything about the handshakers. Tazuna knows that Midori is trying to use all of these for his personal gain. Tazuna has been able to figure out that Yukiya's information has been leaked, and this puts him in danger. This is no longer about Ziggurat alone, but Yukiya's safety. When asked how he got the information, he revealed that he made a deal with someone who used to work at the Akutagawa laboratory. It turns out that this person is Nielsen. Apparently Nielsen is also a handshaker, and he has been one for years. His goal is to watch over Okwiki and Yukiya, which simply makes him Ziggurat's guardian. Soon afterward, Nielsen and Tamatama come to Yukiya's school, and Tamatama wonders why Nielsen is doing such, because he is someone who avoids crowds and the like. On the other hand, Yukiya's father and mother are also dressed up to attend the school's cultural festival, where Yukiya will be performing. They find Haruka, and they thank her for being a good friend to their son. While he is trying to unload his equipment from the vehicle, Guy and Masataka show up. They remind him that they are there to watch him play because they have always wanted to hear Wazu's music. Yukiya tells them that he will be the one performing that day, and not Wizzy. Wizzy is his mask, but but he is not going to be putting on the mask, he says. Masaru, Senri, and the others are also present at the school. Shortly afterward, it was time for Yukiya to get on stage and perform. Haruka can hear some people talking about how much practice and work Yukiya has put into this. They hope he will be able to deliver something good without Haruka getting in his way. Haruka hears this and gasps for breath in fear that Yukiya might actually fail. Before the performance, Yukiya thinks to himself how Tazuna helped fix his equipment. His father helped him get to the stage that he was on. And Haruka, who has always been there to support him. The stage is now set for Yukiya to begin his performance, and he starts with a bang. Nielsen is present, and he is impressed with the way the boy is playing. Everyone who is present in the hall is feeling what Yukiya is dishing out to them, and they are all moving their bodies in one way or the other. After a sensational performance with so much energy put into it, the crowd claps for Yukiya as he takes his hand off his equipment to signal the end of his performance. His father is literally crying at the back while he also joins the crowd to clap for his son. Yukiya bows his head and leaves the stage. He gets backstage and sees Haruka waiting for him. Haruka congratulates him concerning the nice performance he just dished out. It is time for Haruka to get on stage too, but she lets him know that there is something she would like to tell him. She suggests that they meet on the roof later on after everything is over. Haruka is able to blend in with the team, and he delivers a nice and touching performance with the team. The captain of the team acknowledges her after they leave the stage, and she apologizes for being hard on Haruka. After this, she starts making her way to the roof, but she runs into some girls who delay her, and in the process, she doesn't come clean about something regarding Yukiya. Just then, she looks up and sees Yukiya in the distance. She realizes that she has lied yet again. She bows her head in shame as she walks back home all alone. Later on, Yukiya keeps trying to reach Haruka with no luck. He is waiting for Haruka's call when an unknown person calls him. The person calling introduces himself as Seba and reveals that he is calling on behalf of Midori. He wants Yukiya to find time to meet up with Midori. Yukiya wants to try and dodge the meeting, but Seba tells him that the meeting is about handshakers. Yukiya tells Tazuna and his friends about this, and Tazuna offers to follow him in case things go south. Tazuna will be able to get him out of there since he is the ultimate handshaker. Soon afterward, a car conveys Tazuna and Yukiya to the building where Midori is waiting for them. He is standing by the window as usual when Seba leads Yukiya and Tazuna into the room. After introductions, Midori tells them that he doesn't want to waste their time, and he is just going to get straight to the point. He wants to show them what he wants with them. Midori starts leading them to a factory where he claims rare materials are being refined. He explains to them that the Okwiki group is leading when it comes to technology, but there are things that humans will do that will affect the future. To explain further, he tells them that they need to enter Ziggurat. He holds Seba's hand while Tazuna holds Yukiya's hands. Upon entering Ziggurat, Midori explains that things are different in that world. Because of the stoppage of time, things are not moving, but it is possible to make things. He picks up one of the metals being produced in the factory and hands it over to Yukiya. Yukiya is defensive towards him, but Midori tells him that there is no need for him to do that. They return to the real world with the rare metal in his palm, and Midori uses this to confirm the fact that Yukiya can take things into Ziggurat and also bring them out. He lets it out that Yukiya is the solution to create unlimited possibilities for humans. With Yukiya, he reveals that they can solve world hunger, power issues, and the like. Tazuna wants to know if his plan is to exploit Yukiya, but Midori says no. Midori simply replies that all he needs is Yukiya's assistance, and Yukiya also holds the power to become a divine being in his hands. Tazuna tries to put it out that Midori will upset the world balance if that continues, but Midori finds a way to brush that aside. Yukiya stands there thinking about his answer, and he says no to him in such a way that will not make it look offensive. Midori is ready to respect his choices, but hopes that they are able to clear their misunderstanding another time. As Seba escorts Yukiya and Tazuna, Midori calls out his name, bows to him, and tells him to take care of himself. Later on, Haruka also receives a call from Seba, telling him that Midori wants to see her. She honors the invitation and goes to the factory just like Tazuna and Yukiya did. Midori tells Haruka that he wants to make use of Yukiya's power in such a way that it will make things better for them, and he assures Haruka that Yukiya will not be hurt in the process. However, Haruka replies and says Yukiya doesn't want his powers to be used the way Midori plans to. Midori takes Haruka to a restaurant where he asks her what other people will think of Yukiya if they find out what his power is. He lets her know that Tazuna alone cannot protect Yukiya, and this is the reason he needs a partner. He knows for a fact that Haruka still remembers everything that happened in Ziggurat, but she is always lying to Yukiya that she doesn't. He tells her that she can become Yukiya's partner and act in his place. Haruka says she doesn't have any powers, but Midori lets her know that she does. He says the power is only hidden inside her, and she can make them bloom if she wants. Haruka thinks a lot about this and realizes that she can activate the power and protect Yukiya with it. Midori then prays on this, telling her that he will also be there to protect her with all the resources at his disposal. He assures Haruka that he can grant her wish and make it shine. He stretches his hand out to Haruka, and she takes his hand. Meanwhile, Nielsen has found out about the move that Midori is making, and he is ready to step in. He cannot wait for Tazuna to fulfill the promise and deal that he made. Later on, Yukiya hears some girls talking about Haruka transferring from the school, and Yukiya runs out of the classroom quickly. He gets to her home, and her mother informs her that Haruka has gone to a school that is affiliated with the Okwiki group. She asks him if she would like for her to contact Haruka, and Yukiya says yes. On his way home, Yukiya reveals his determination to stop Midori from using Haruka, and he also wants to tell her how he feels about her. Rei and Yukune are home when they receive a visit from Nielsen and Tamatama. Nielsen is angry with the fact that Rei failed at his promise. It turns out that Nielsen was the one who handed Yukiya over to Rei when he was a baby. Rei apologizes for breaking his promise, but reveals that his son fought back, and this is the reason he became a handshaker. Nielsen angrily leaves, but tells Rei of his plans to crush Yukiya. As he leaves, Nielsen reveals that he didn't want a repeat of what happened in the past, and this is the reason he handed the boy over to Rei, but things are already going the way he didn't want now. Shortly afterward, Rei finds his son, and Yukiya is surprised that his father found him. His father reminds him that he is his son, and he knows the places he can go to. He wants Yukiya to tell him everything that his mind is worried about, and Yukiya tells him about the Okwiki group and Haruka. He shows his determination that he wants to rescue Haruka no matter what. He is ready to use his power to rescue Haruka, and also find the missing people that Koyori is looking for. His father is impressed with him, and lets him know that he is there to support him. He says he might not be strong like Tazuna, but he is there to help. He throws a helmet to his son and tells him to get on the bike so that they can begin their mission to save Haruka. As they proceed on the motorcycle, Rei tells his son that there is something he needs to know. He reveals that he was adopted, but Yukiya doesn't seem surprised to hear this. He lets Rei know that he was already thinking about it because there was no picture of him before elementary school. This is one of the few indicators that made him realize that he is not Rei's son. Nonetheless, he thinks of Rei as his dad and would have preferred that he doesn't talk about it. They are about to reach the school's dorm, and they enter Ziggurat while they are still on the bike. Rei is impressed with the fact that his son can literally do anything in that world, but he just doesn't want to. Just then, they are attacked by Seba, but they manage to jump off the bike, unhurt. Seba is with Haruka, and it turns out that Haruka is the one who brought Seba into Ziggurat. Yukiya tells Haruka to come with them, but she refuses. Seba then asks the two to leave, or else he will use force against them. Rei decides to engage Seba, while his son goes after Haruka. He lets out his Nimrod, but it appears that Seba is more powerful than he looks. He charges toward Rei at blinding speed, and he is able to deliver a fatal blow. Yukiya is still busy chasing Haruka, but she doesn't seem like she is interested in going with Yukiya. She summons her Nimrod to show how serious she is. Meanwhile, Seba is still busy hitting Rei. Rei is surprised to find out that the guy is actually stronger than he looks. However, Rei is not ready to give up or lose in front of his son. He stands up again, and another round of fight breaks out between the two. Rei is able to hold out this time around and drags Seba close to him. He headbutts him, and the two of them start staggering. Rei starts to lose his life form on Ziggurat, but he is rest assured that he was able to push his son to where he needs to be. Haruka and Yukiya are busy fighting it out, and Haruka keeps saying she is not ready to go with Yukiya. She keeps attacking Yukiya as she cries and says she is not worthy of his love. She reveals that she finds it hard to tell the truth, and also stops people from bad-mouthing him. Yukiya manages to disarm Haruka, and he holds her hands. He kneels in front of Haruka and confesses his love to her. He lets her know that he loves her and wants to be with her. Haruka hears this, and she also lets go of the feeling she has inside of her. She confesses that she loves Yukiya, and this is the reason she kept lying. The two then come clean that they are both aware of the incident that happened on Ziggurat when Haruka got hurt. Seba and Rei forget about their fight when they see this. Rei laughs and says he has won as he slowly disappears from the world. Seba is not ready to accept this. and he starts charging toward Yukiya and Haruka. Haruka and Yukiya hold hands, and they become partners. They start to levitate, and Rei suddenly appears again. He holds Seba down, and Haruka finishes him off in one blow. The two are happy that their problem is over. They decide to return to the real world, but Yukiya realizes that he cannot. Just then, Nielsen and Tamatama show up. Nielsen doesn't hide the fact that he is there to terminate Yukiya. Apparently, Rei returned to the real world only to run into Nielsen, who revealed that he was entering Ziggurat to eliminate Yukiya. There is no way for Rei to follow him, and he just hopes that Yukiya will win the battle that is coming to him. Yukiya is shocked to see Nielsen, and he starts talking about how he is a big fan of his. Nielsen promises to give him an autograph once he is done with him. He summons his Nimrod, and it resembles that of Yukiya. Just then, Kori and Tazuna show up, which is not supposed to be possible because the two cannot enter the world by themselves. Nielsen then reveals that he is the one who brought the two into Ziggurat so that they can take on Yukiya and Hakaru. Kori and Tazuan let it out that they are doing this of their own free will. They suggest that Yukiya surrender the power with him, but he refuses. He and Hakaru are ready to battle it out with them, just so the power doesn't fall into their hands. Yukiya figures out how he and Hakaru can become stronger, and he takes this hint from Nielsen. However, Tazuna comes charging at him before anything happens. A fierce fight breaks out between the two that leaves Yukiya breathing heavily. Tazuna steps back, and Nielsen can clearly see that he is holding back against Yukiya. Yukiya and Haruka hold hands, and they are able to boost their strength. Just then, Rei and Yukune also enter Ziggurat to assist their son. Rei and his wife also activate their Nimrods, and they are ready to fight Tazuna and Kori. Tazuna realizes that he cannot take on the team unless he gets serious. He holds his partner's hand, and the two synchronize their power. Tamatama goes against Haraku while Yukiya battles it out with Tazuna. After some exchange of blows, Nielsen switches in to fight Yukiya. Yukiya is not ready to give up because there is a wish that he wants to be granted. The wish is not for him but for Kori, who is searching for some people. As the fight progresses, Nielsen suddenly stops the battle and says he has an offer for Yukiya. He gives him an invitation to him at a picked location at 5 p.m. The following day, Yukiya and Haruka meet with Nielsen and Tamatama. They enter into Ziggurat together, and Nielsen reveals that he cannot bring Tazuna and Kori back into the other world just yet. There is a specific amount of time that they need to wait for before he can do that. Nielsen takes them to a house where they meet a guy named Naga. It turns out that he is the Nagaoka that Kori is searching for. At the same time, Kori's sister, Mayumi, steps out of the house, and this leaves Yukiya totally shocked. Yukiya feels something warm in his chest, and he starts to tear up. They enter the house, and they sit down to drink together. Mayumi is told that they have been looking for her. Mayumi then reveals that Nagaoka is sick, and normal medicine is not working. This is the reason they made a wish to start living in Ziggurat as normal humans instead of handshakers. Yukiya tells her that her sister wants to see, but she doesn't think that is possible. However, Yukiya realizes that there is a way that he can go through to help. He picks up his phone and calls Kori, and she is able to speak to her sister. This is able to work, thanks to Yukiya's power. The two are happy to hear each other's voices, and when it is time for Yukiya to leave, Mayumi thanks him for his help. Nielsen tells Yukiya and Hakaru to continue going while he steps back a little to have a discussion with Naga and Mayumi. Hikaru tells Yukiya that she forgets something, and she needs to run back to get it. Meanwhile, Naga and Nielsen are busy talking about how Yukiya grew 8 years at once when he stepped into the outside world. Apparently, Naga and Mayumi are his parents, but they don't want to tell him. Hikaru gets there while they are talking about this, and she tells them that they are wrong. She then assures them that she will continue to watch and protect Yukiya for them. After she has made this promise, she runs back to Yukiya, looking all happy and smiley. In the next scene, Midori and Seba are seen discussing. Midori has found out that both Yukiya and Haruka have rejected his offer. This doesn't seem to move him because he has another plan in stock. Just then, Haruka and Yukiya show up with a proposition. It turns out that Yukiya has informed his friends of his plan before heading to Midori's office. His plan is risky, but knows that it will be the best solution to their problems if it comes out well. Midori asks the two if they are there to take him down, but Yukiya says no. He lets him know that they are there to grant his wish. Since Midori is a handshaker, he must have a wish, and this is what Yukiya wants to help him achieve. Haruka lets him know that they can summon people who have given them permission to Ziggurat, and this was how they were able to bring Rei back into the world to support them, even after he was defeated the last time. Yukiya plans to set up sham victories to help them meet the Supreme Being, and then have Midori request a wish. Midori hears everything that he has to say, and admits Yukiya is amazing, and he is also nice. However, he counts the gesture they are bringing to him as a waste of time because he no longer has a wish that he wants the Supreme Being to grant. He opens his shirt to reveal the gem that is embedded in his shirt. It turns out that he has already met the Supreme Being, and the gem is proof of his foolishness. In addition, he already has his wish granted, so the two are just wasting their time trying to convince him. He then confesses that the only thing he now wants is a way to exploit the system, because he doesn't even care about the factory that his father built. A flashback scene shows when his father began building the factory, and Koyori's father was one of the scientists working on it. After Koyori's father leaves, the research comes to a halt, but Midori wants to help his father and also make him proud. He then decides to venture into Ziggurat with Seba by his side. He met the Supreme Being, and when he returned to the real world, he had a gem embedded in his palm, which he cut out for his father. With this, gems started growing on his body, and Midori was turned into a gem plant by his father. He is always on the hospital bed, going under the knife to remove the gem in his body. This continues over time until one day, Seba bursts into the room and shoots down all the doctors, including Midori's father. He carries Midori away from the bed, and before they leave the room, Midori makes sure to shoot his father to confirm that he is dead. After this, Seba swears allegiance to Midori to become his servant forever. With this, Haruka and Yukiya know what happened to Midori. Midori tells them that he has no plans to defeat them. He just wants to incapacitate them and make them follow his will and instructions. He and Seba summon their Nimrods in preparation to attack Haruka and Yukiya. They come charging toward the two, and the two realize that Midori is actually very powerful. He even has Seba supporting him, which makes him quite unstoppable. The two continue to beat the couple up, and Midori sounds so confident that he has even given them options on how to defeat him. Haruka and Yukiya realize that they are not up to the standard of the fight, and they run away. Seba wants to chase after them, but Midori stops him. He says the two might have planned this, and even though they didn't, there is no way Seba is going to catch up to them because they are moving in a coordinated manner. Later on, Tazuna and the rest of their friends realize that Yukiya's negotiations with Midori have broken down. They are not utterly worried about this, because they have envisaged this already. They have used the time Yukiya gave them to move away from their home to avoid Midori coming after them. This actually worked because Midori already sent people after Rei, Yukun, and everyone else who is affiliated with Yukiya. On the other hand, Midori doesn't care that Yukiya's friends and family have escaped. He says this doesn't change anything because all of his preparations are made already. He has plans to take control of Nielsen's club and have all the handshakers attack via Ziggurat. Shortly afterward, Midori's plan gets delayed because of the fact that there is an actress organizing a fest, and there is no way they are making a move right there in the open. Meanwhile, Nielsen is ready to expose himself to danger as long as he is doing it to protect Yukiya. A little while later, Yukiya and Hikaru find Midori and Seba. Midori is surprised that Yukiya has come to fight him when he knows that he is far more powerful than him. Yukiya reveals that he is aware of this fact, and this is the reason he has brought help with him. He and Hikaru summon Senri, Hana, Masataka, and Guy to come help them in the fight against Midori. The four are willing to do this as a way of punishing the composer for what he did to them. They launch several long-range attacks at Midori and Seba, which Seba puts in his best to try and block off the attacks. Even with the long-range attacks, Midori is able to take all four of them down. After the four have disappeared from that world, Yukiya lets Midori know that his plan is not to have the four defeat him, but to just inflict damage on him, which they have certainly done. Yukiya is confident that he now has a chance to defeat Midori. Yukiya and Hikaru hold hands, forcing their energy to charge up. Midori laughs at them and calls them dumb because he knows everything about them and their friends. He plans to crush the little bond that they have all together. He calls it the Babel that they are building, and he wants to crush it. Seba comes charging toward the two, but Haruka offers to take him on while Yukiya deals with Midori. Meanwhile, Mayumi and Nagaoka are aware that their son is fighting. Mayumi is hopeful that Yukiya will not lose because she wished for a strong child back then. In fact, she wished for a child who is stronger than anyone else, and this is the reason she believes that Yukiya will come out on top. The scene goes back to the battleground, and Yukiya suddenly puts on his headphones and feels relaxed. Midori is angry that Yukiya is relaxed in the middle of a fight, and he shoots some long-range attacks at him, but he easily dodges them. Before he can react, Yukiya reaches him and delivers a blow that knocks him back. This shocks Midori because he sees himself as the level of a supreme being and doesn't expect Yukiya to even have the ability to lay a finger on him. Yukiya is even relaxed that he is giving Midori the chance to get back up. Midori gets back up, and an intense battle ensues between the two. Yukiya ends up getting the upper hand, forcing Midori and Seba out of Ziggurat. Yukiya is surprised by the sudden boost of energy that he received during the battle. After Midori is gone, Nielsen, Naga, Mayumi, Koyori, and Tazuna show up. It is a sweet reunion between them, and Tazuna reveals what he has learned about handshakers' hearts overlapping. They ask Yukiya if he has a wish that he wants to be fulfilled, and he says yes. He joins his hand with everyone else, forcing the area to turn bright white. It turns out that Yukiya has managed to get rid of the power that everyone is after, and there will be no one coming after him or Haruka in the meantime. The Pile brothers are seen talking about the mountains that they want to visit, and they consider inviting Yukiya to one of the trips. On the other hand, Midori is sad that he no longer has a goal, because Yukiya has lost the power he was after. However, Midori has Seiba by his side, and he will never allow Midori to fall into depression. Hana and Senri also have plans to visit a karaoke after Senri leaves work for the day. Hana knows she will be lonely once Senri goes, but she is ready to adjust to the new way of life. Nielsen has also taken Yukiya under his care to teach him how to be a proper DJ. With this, everyone gets to have a happy end.